4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, let's kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right, baby let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
Oh.
Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician.
Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. When the truth don't work, you start telling lies. Thought you were down to ride, you weren't down to ride. Caught switching, you were picking sides. Don't blink, caught slipping like a slip and slide. I was shooting dice till I got a nosebleed. Money on the floor, can't get cold feet. Took an L, should've put it in the offering. Lord, forgive me for my sins, don't know of me. Scary thoughts, I got scary thoughts. Lost control, now I'm taking charge. Breaking bills, friends breaking off. You could be the youngest, I'm the dawn. Kiss the ring, nah. In the scene like GOT. Stay awake, don't sleep. Like Jon Snow, get R.I.P. Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. Just me, myself, and I'm my favorite threesome. The cars I drive by, I never lease them. They say if you can't beat them, then you join them. That's no option, I don't join, I always beat them. I was fake, it had to find me. Now I'm on beat, skating like I'm grinding. L hit me, said it's all about the timing. If you want the vision, get to spinning. My mama told me trust in God, it's never limits. Now I'm on the scoreboard, running up the digits. I put in work, you know I'm up to get it. Early bird gets the worm and the Yankee fitted. Like whoa, bags under my eyes and you know. Won't complain, I'm tired, I'm on go. For that grip, 10 toes till they swole. For that grip, 10 toes till they swole. Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. I was starving, now I'm eating till my belly full. From up north, we get cold, you need a heavy coat. Scared to end up on the shirt before it's centerfold. Devil on my back, target on me, deadly too. Play the keys, don't tweet. It's my peace, don't speak. 24, no sleep. This is real, no tweet. My bros for life, can't break this link. Family on my side, baby stay around me. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want this. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want this. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. Want that combo, better know you'll need a check from me. Can pay to play the sun, it still won't get a cent from me. I mix the fit up with the side like it's a remedy. I mix it up inside the pot, watch it drip while it drop. Time to take it to the top. Chips all in the middle like it fall, no I won't flop. We gon' pop like a soda can top. To me this is nothing, call my bluff and I won't stop when I flex. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want best. By any means, that's a triple threat. Yeah, this is getting bigger, I might flex. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want best. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want best. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I press the button and the doors go up. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, I hit record it, drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peak, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, on no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa. Tunnel vision when I hit the holly. Working on that cause my mind is on an island. Told my babies I'll be homeless, so don't stay up. Breaks my heart to see them sad, so I won't wait up. Need it all that's mine, I need it now. I lost my patience the same week I lost my smile. My baby pressed me, said I'm acting like a child. I took some L's, can lie, that really brought me down. I'm so antisocial, but I guess it's type selective. Swear I'll make a change, but for now I just can't help it. Only trusting God in these scars that I've been dealt with. I'ma do my job, time to grind, time to know. They know, 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 they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. Going and I won't let up, they know. I'm not so I'm fed up, they know. Say it for the record, they know. They know, they know, they know. Yeah, they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. I'm not so I'm fed up, they know. Why you never sign? You sign when you go live. Stuck inside that bubble, never ever go outside. You don't know you know computers, you're a tech guy. Back against a wall, you gon' fall or you gon' ride. I feel the pressure, foot to the pedal. My dogs, they fed up, my squad won't let up. Those sneakers CDG, hot on step on. My money yoga, the way it stretch on. I change locations to change the weather. Know when that rain come, got my umbrella. And when my day come, my name gon' stay up. Yeah, I know. Pedal to the metal, they know. Gone and I won't let up, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know. Say it for the record, they know. Yeah, they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know.
He was wanted, and he also was apprehended. Frank James, the notorious man that went on a shooting spree in a New York subway, was caught and accosted last week for crimes against civility and also crimes against humanity. As you know, Frank James was more or less associated with that very turbulent movement called the MANOSPHERE. And Frank James and some of his associations have caused many to be in a state of ire. He's caused many to be in a state of disrepair. And he's also caused many to be in a state of fluctuation. Frank James was wanted and accosted. And because of that, there are several other people associated with Frank James that need to be caught and are wanted. The next person, or the first person that's wanted, is Tommy Sotomayor. Tommy Sotomayor has been very violent, and he has a hatred towards humanity and also a hatred towards women. Because of that, Tommy Sotomayor needs to be caught, and he needs to be arrested and held on bond until he can understand how his behaviors is causing distress to modern women and modern men. The next person that is wanted is Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels also appears to be spewing misogynistic overtones. And because of that, Kevin Samuels needs to be arrested, and he's wanted for causing distress and causing pain because he's associated with those that are affiliates with this very violent and hateful group called the Manosphere. Therefore, Kevin Samuels is wanted. And if you guys know any information on Kevin Samuels, I need you guys to call me so that we can arrest him. The third person that is wanted is Coach Greg Adams. Coach Greg Adams is another man that's an enemy to the state. He's also an enemy to the black community. Coach Greg Adams often talks about men not getting married. He appears to be having misogynistic overtones. And Coach Greg Adams is a man that more or less don't believe in the power of one and in the power of love. Because of that, Coach Greg Adams is wanted, and Coach Greg Adams needs to be arrested because he is an enemy of the state. The next one is this man that always walks around very angry and very upset. He is the angry man. The angry man is wanted because the angry man is causing a lot of distress as it relates to understanding women, and also he has a hatred towards single mothers. Therefore, because of the angry man's pronouncements and his ignorance concerning women, the angry man is wanted for a bond. And if you can find the angry man, let me know, and we will apprehend him and hold him under arrest. The next person that's wanted is Minister Jap. This man is wanted because he's one of the worst ones on my list, on the FBI hit list. Minister Jap is a man that calls women German shepherds. And because of that, Minister Jap and his words and also his ignorance towards women needs to be apprehended. Minister Jap, we are looking for you. I ask that you turn yourself in. If you fail to return yourself in within 24 to 48 hours, I will come looking for you, me and my bounty hunters and also my marshals with our German shepherds. The next person that's wanted is Better Bachelor. Bella Bachelor is a man that's been spewing hate through these YouTube streets, and Bella Bachelor needs to be apprehended. He's a small man, about 5'8", a white man, and Bella Bachelor, we're sick of you telling these women that they don't deserve love and they shouldn't get married and marriage rates are dropping. It's men like you and all the affiliates associated with the manosphere that's causing this harm, disdain, and also causing the paranoia as it relates to women and men in modern relationships. Now listen to this. Of course I don't believe that. And of course, I don't believe that none of the people associated with Frank James, or more or less accused to be associated with Frank James, are the cause of the ire that's going on in modern times in society. What you guys seeing now more or less precipitated is something called scapegoating. Scapegoating is when people take their pain and their hurt and they use someone else as a target to more or less displace their pain and also their aggression. Many times scapegoats are used as substitutes to justify the behavior that that person is exhibiting. And many times in these spaces that men have, many people use the people that I talked about earlier as scapegoats to justify behaviors, which in essence appears to be very hypocritical. The next stinking arrow that many of these women are using, and some are using, some of these men, they're also using something called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is also a thinking arrow where they take things and blow them out of proportion. None of the men that I talked about in the past, more or less, are associated with the behaviors of Frank James. And many times, anytime black men and all men begin to speak out from a heteronormative perspective, they're always castigated or more or less encapsulated into a mind frame and a mind state that calls them to be in a state of distress. Are you wanted for speaking out as a modern black man? Are you wanted for speaking out as a modern white man? Are you wanted for more or less exuding any vestige of masculinity in these times when anything we deem to be masculine is seen as toxic? I want you guys to enjoy this show, but also enjoy the satire that I use to more or less point out the thinking errors that some modern women have as it relates to masculinity. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male, and understanding female psychology and how female psychology impacts the mental health and also the physical health of a man is important as we move forward in these very turbulent times. Are you men wanted for standing out and speaking out concerning the misgivings of modern men and masculinity? You decide. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in on tonight as we're going to be talking about Wanted. Wanted is based on the guy that was apprehended by the FBI, Frank James. Frank James was apprehended by the FBI for behaviors that were deemed to be antisocial, but also very dangerous. And you know, anytime men begin to come together, guys, to more or less show their misgivings and more or less talk about their distress and pain, there are always saboteurs that seek to subvert what we're trying to do and what many men are trying to do as it relates to the distress and pain that many men are having in modern times. Now, listen, there have been some that have begun to associate the behavior of Frank James with the manosphere, the space where men congregate, where these men are from different perspectives, where we agree in some areas, we disagree in other areas, but we have more commonalities than we have differences. And so they begin to more or less associate Frank James with Kevin Samuels and many other men in these spaces. And guys, because of that, guys, we realize that these are thinking errors, and also it's a design, in my opinion, to attack and also more or less to destroy free speech and more or less reduce how men can share their stories and also share their pain. Thinking errors, guys, are very prevalent in these modern times. Thinking errors are prevalent because people lack the ability and the wherewithal to do the self-introspection. And see, when you don't do self-introspection, when you're not recording your thoughts, when you're not recording your pain, when you're not recording your fear, you are guilty, or you're more or less in a position to more or less accost those that had no doing with the behavior and more or less say that they are worthy or more or less guilty of what happened. Before we start the show, guys, I want to send a special shout out to my man, Brotherly Love, and he is right now the sponsor. And he said, let's level out, let's get this fair pay. And that is a deal, right? I really appreciate it, brother love. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that has been supporting me and donating to this channel as we seek to grow, as we seek to expand, and as we seek to heal men from the stresses and also the pains that they're dealing with in these modern times. I told you guys before in the past that when you elevate your men, when you more or less protect their ego, then you're also empowering your women by default. I'm going to say it again. When you protect your men, when you more or less manage their ego or more or less assuage their egos, you are also indirectly protecting your men. But we live in a time, guys, where when it comes down to the things that men want and the pains and the distresses that men go through, no one more or less cares about their egos. No one more or less care about their pain. And when we more or less reduce the warrior class to something minuscule, then after a while, something damaging and dangerous could happen. Frank James is an archetype of a man that's dealing with underlying mental illness, but Frank James also is an archetype of what's been going on in the broader society. Frank James is a microcosm of a greater macrocosm, a man that had underlying mental illness, but also a man that was in an environment where he was not more or less respected and more or less seen as a man or also a human. And I told you guys before in the past that a hopeless man is a broken man. A broken man is a dangerous man. And when men are hopeless or broken and hopeless, they become dangerous. And that's what's happening now. Many of you men are becoming dangerous, and some of the men that are listening are dangerous. Now listen, I don't endorse violence of any kind. I say it as a disclaimer. I do not endorse violence of any kind. These shows are utilized, guys, to more or less allow men to tell their story. In the clinical world, it's called group therapy. And many times what's going on in these shows is about men telling their stories, fear of retribution, but also fear of shame. And many times in America, anytime men seek to come together to share their stories, it's always met with a level of distress, and it's also met with scrutiny, and also met with things that more or less are not beneficial to the mental well-being of men. Now, I'm going to read this next super chat by Gregory Scotland. Thank you, Gregory Scotland. Hold tight. Shout out to Gregory Scotland. That is a deal, right? I appreciate it, sir. For that $10 super sticker, I appreciate it, Gregory Scotland. Thank you, sir, for your kindness. And thank you also to Brotherly Love, as he is, as of now, the sponsor of the stream. I really appreciate what you guys are doing as we seek to bring clarity in these current times. But once again, guys, we're going to talk about this Frank James fiasco. We're going to talk about this Frank James fiasco and how Frank James has been a victim of his own ignorance, but also how many of these men in some of these spaces are victims of their own ignorance when they're not getting the help that they need. When you think about Frank James, do you think Frank James was emulating talking points from the manosphere? If you think Frank James was more or less emulating talking points from the manosphere and he turned into violence, I need you guys to hit 1. If you feel that Frank James was emulating talking points from the manosphere that turned into violence, I need you guys to hit 1. Hit 1 if you think that's the case. All right. So my man Juan said, real talk, it was hilarious how $5 super chat ended Jack Murphy. Oh my goodness. D said, tuning in late, does Frank James has an existing mental health disorder? I think he does, man. I think Frank James does have an existing mental health disorder. I can't really say what it is because that would not be ethical for me to say so. But do I think Frank James has some underlying mental pathologies? Yes, sir. I think it is. I think he does. Don't know what it is, but I definitely think he has some underlying mental distress. But once again, what do you guys think about men of these spaces or men of the manosphere being associated with misogyny, being associated with violence, being associated with many things? Do you think black men or any men of these spaces that are being associated with that kind of behavior are more or less scapegoats? If you feel they're scapegoats, I need you guys to hit 1, because some feel that those that are trying to accost men of these spaces that they're trying to more or less tell their story and tell their pain are scapegoats. I think it's a form of scapegoating, but what do you guys think? Do you think that male spaces are victims of thinking errors, such as scapegoating and also catastrophizing? And once again, guys, the 26th of the watching, get the likes up, share the content, If you have not donated, donate to the channel. If you don't have anything to donate, please share the content. Sharing the content is money for me. So if you guys can share it, I would greatly appreciate it. But once again, how many of you guys feel like what was associated with Frank James? So Gregory Scholar and Saul J said 1. So it sounds like some of you guys feel that the things that were accosted with Frank James, that they're trying to say many of these spaces are creating the same pathologies. And I tend to agree. I don't think that the things that the men are talking about in these spaces are synonymous to hatred or violence. But the times that we're living in there, guys, anytime you say anything against the norm, it's always accosted as hatred or violence. And that's the sad thing. It's a sad thing, guys, and it's also very unfortunate that many are associated with that. But what do you guys think about, the Frank James fiasco? And we're going to break it down in a minute. But before we break it down, let's look at what thinking errors we feel that are associated with this whole thing. And we're going to talk about it. And one is called scapegoating, a scapegoat. And so many of these spaces, guys, are wanted, but many times they're wanted because they're seen as scapegoats. Many times some of these women that are not healed in these spaces, and some of these, the high in the simps, they use men as scapegoats to justify bad behavior. And any bad behavior, guys, I mean any bad behaviors that they see, they always associate heteronormative masculinity as something bad. So ask yourself the question, because I don't think what's going on with Frank James is a byproduct of some of the content creators. I think what it is men that are fed up, and you're seeing men, white and black, and men from all different worldviews and backgrounds coming together and saying, we're tired of the shenanigans, we're tired of the disrespect, we're tired of the double standards that exist as it relates to men and males' health and males' physical health. So let's look at the word scapegoat. Let's look at the word scapegoat. A scapegoat is a person, hold tight. A scapegoat is a person blamed for wrongdoings, mistakes, or faults of others, especially for reasons of expediency. And see, anytime, something bad or negative happens, you see scapegoating behavior. And that's what you guys are seeing now with this Frank James fiasco, is scapegoating behavior. I want you guys to talk about times where you have been scapegoats. Have you men been scapegoats in the past? When you think about relationships, have you been scapegoat? When you think about anything related to life or also power, have you guys been scapegoats? I want somebody to tell me in the chat about a time when you felt like you've been a scapegoat, because it appears that Frank James is being used, or the MANOSPHERE is being used as a scapegoat to justify Frank James' violent behavior. And it's unfortunate, guys, because anytime anything happens, men get encapsulated or more or less encased into negative and very dangerous behavior. And it's unfortunate because, it's not fair and it's not just. So I want you guys to talk about a time when you were scapegoated. And what did that scapegoating do to you mentally? I want you guys to talk about a time when you were scapegoated and what did it do to you mentally, because a lot of men are frustrated with what's going on, and a lot of men are frustrated with some of the things that we're beginning to see now as it relates to behavior, but also as it relates to moving forward. It's always things taken out of context and things more or less minimized as it relates to men, and also how men think and also how men feel. Give me a minute, guys. Hold tight. Give me 1 minute, guys. Got something for you guys to see. All right, hold tight. All right. So that's one of them. Scapegoating is one of them. One side, I definitely have been scapegoated, but I did the scapegoating in my younger, immature days. I definitely regret it. Now, learning what I'm learning today, yes, sir. And knowing is half the truth. Knowing, guys, is half the truth. And the next thinking error, guys, that appears to be associated with this Kevin Samuels fiasco or this MANOSPHERE fiasco is a condition called catastrophizing. And so catastrophizing, guys, is a thinking error as well. It's when someone assumes that the worst will happen. It's when someone assumes that the worst will happen. It involves believing that you're in a worse situation than you really are, or exaggerating the difficulties you face. For someone might worry that they'll fail an exam. So catastrophizing is always thinking the worst. And while catastrophizing is not a mental illness, however, it's a symptom of several mental conditions such as anxiety and depression, and also the symptoms of an antagonizes mental health disorders such as post-traumatic stress disorder and most severe. Symptoms of catastrophizing is when you're blowing, signs of catastrophizing, when you're blowing things out of proportion, thinking the worst will happen, and believing irrational thoughts about yourself and situations that have already happened or have yet to happen. And that's what's happening, guys, when men in these spaces are wanted. When men in these spaces are wanted and associated with Frank James, then it's catastrophizing. It's a thinking error because there's no evidence to the contrary as it relates to what's going on with the situation. And see, these pathologies, guys, tend to more or less go in and out. And because we don't have the proper accountability in our society, we have men and women that exhibit thinking errors, but many of our women exhibit thinking errors because many times they're a lot more emotional. And when that happens, guys, and it does happen more than often, it causes men to be in a state of flux. It causes men to question themselves, and it causes men to question whether or not the things that they're doing is right. So many times people that catastrophize, it can also lead to gaslighting. And gaslighting is when they know there's no evidence to the contrary, but they'll have you convinced that what you're doing is wrong. And so there were some that left these spaces, and I understand where I'm not necessarily 100% Manosphere. I do affiliate with it, and I respect it for what it is. But some left it because they felt prey, or they felt like that some of the things, or the foolishness that was going on was not beneficial to them. And I respect their position to move on and do what's best for them. But nonetheless, you guys are beginning to see these thinking errors permeate more so now than they ever have before in human history and time, because anything masculine is also seen as a scapegoat or also catastrophizing. So, guys, we're going to talk about it. Give me 1 minute. Hold tight. Let me stop the screen. And give me 1 minute. And shout out to my man, Top Gun. Hold tight. Gregory Scotland says, very important for content creators, especially men, to make sure they control their channel. Yes, sir. Top Gun, thank you for that $5 super sticker. He said the media will always put out a narrative for this feminist clan to rally behind. This week it's the guy. Last week it was alopecia. Yes, sadly. Shout out to my man D. He said men's mental health is minimizing the joke. For example, Tyrese, Will Smith, Kanye, Mike Tyson. This shows disrespect and disrespect for men, disregard for men overall. And I agree with you 1,000%, D. I agree with you 1,000%. Shout out to Saul J. He said, I had someone try and go me to me, leverage the gynocentric HR against me. Fortunately, I had proof she was actually the aggressor, left me pissed off for a while. Right. It's happened to me before too, Saul J. It's happened to a lot of men, sadly. And when that happens, it causes a lot of men to second guess themselves. But I'm going to pull up the show, or pull up this link by this woman, Tanya TKO. And you're seeing, guys, how she's trying to, hold tight, associate, or more or less what I call scapegoat, what happened with Frank James with Kevin Samuels. I'm going to say it again. She's trying to associate, guys, or scapegoat what happened with Kevin Samuels, with Frank James, with Kevin Samuels. And I think that's unfortunate to assume and presume that those two are more or less somehow intertwined. Now, before we start, guys, this is part of fair use. This is fair use. This is for education, and this is also for teaching and also for instruction. This is fair use. This is fair use. This is not my content, guys. This is fair use as we seek to bring clarity to the thinking errors that's happening so often in these modern times. All right, so hold tight.
Other platforms. We are live on LinkedIn, we are live on Twitter, and we are live on Facebook. Listen, thank you to the text notification squad. You know, I know people are like, oh, why are you always advertising the text notification squad? I need to for moments like this, because right now these platforms are trying to bury this story. They took down his YouTube page right as I was trying to download some videos. Other vloggers were talking about it live on air. They disabled his channel right as people were speaking about it. We're talking about the New York City subway shooter, Frank R. What's this man's name? James? This is just unbelievable. Frank R. James. He was a huge fanboy of Kevin Samuels. He was a fanboy of the Manosphere, and he was also Hotepian. He Black Powered this and into the whole quote unquote upliftment of Black people, which you know really translates into the upliftment of Black men. So I'm going to show you all, oh my goodness, there's a lot that we need to go into, but much that we can't, because YouTube took down his page right as we were trying to report on this. I am your host, Tanya TKO. I am a self-love specialist from TanyaTKO.com. On this channel, we use viral stories as lessons for us to review our own lives, for what self-love looks like in our life. Let's jump right into the story. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a life coach with a specialty in self-love and relationship coaching. And if you want to send an apple so that your comment is read on air, you can. I'm going to be reading them on air. You see it across the screen right here when you send an apple through. The name is at Tanya TKO, which is going across the top of the screen, and it's also direct link inside of the description.
And so you guys are hearing it. You guys are hearing the foolishness by this woman and the assumptions and the associations that Kevin Samuels somehow influenced Frank James to commit the heinous crimes that he committed. If you think that Kevin Samuels influenced Frank James to commit the heinous crimes that he committed, I need you guys to hit 1. If you think this woman is using Kevin Samuels as a scapegoat, I need you guys to hit 2. Hold tight.
It's important that you support the vloggers that you love, whose content you resonate with, because it's because of you that we are able to create this content. People are like, oh, these content creators are always asking for cash apps. No, send the cash apps willingly if you so choose. But it's important because these channels, they block us out from being able to speak the real. But I have a few videos that I want you all to see, right? I want you all to see, for those of you who don't know, there was a shooter on the subway yesterday. This guy is a prime suspect because they found his, I believe he rented a U-Haul with a van. He came up to New York City. He threw smoke bombs onto the train. He opened fire. At least 29 people are injured, right? Not only that, they found his social media with a lot of disturbing messages. Somebody just told me that they saw on his channel that he was subscribed to me.
Guys, look at this. Look at what one of the commenters said. Hold tight if I can find it. Hold tight.
The stop that he went to is the stop where my business, TKO Skin, was located. He did this in rush hour. Can you imagine? TKO Skin has been closed for several years, but the thing about it is that these people walk among us. They're out there, they're commenting. Someone said he probably commented as a troll on this channel many a time. The thing is that when we meet these people, we don't know who they are, what mindset they're in. And so much of the time we internalize their behavior like, oh, what's wrong with me? No, what's wrong with them? These people are walking around out here in need of mental health help. And instead of getting mental health help, they're going to the gym, picking up some weights, flinging them around, or going out into the street, or turning on YouTube and finding some therapy from some other sick men.
And there you heard it, guys. There you heard it. Therapy from some other sick men. what this woman is doing, she said she's a life coach or whatever type of coach. But what she's doing, she's projecting, and more or less what she's also doing is associating any man and any talking points related to masculinity as being mental distress. And, you know, sometime in therapy, guys, there's a such thing called transference, where a person would transfer their pain to the therapist. And so Frank James could have more or less been living through vicarious association, but you can't accost or more or less accuse Kevin Samuels or any content creators with the behaviors of Frank James. That would be irreprehensible to do so. And what this woman is doing, like so many do, they take things out of context and they more or less try to paint a narrative that men and men in these spaces are valid and men in these spaces are dangerous. Now, listen, are there some guys in these spaces that take things to the edge? Yes. But by and large, most of the men that listen are pretty good men. They're solid men. And they're just men that are trying to learn. They're average guys, and men are just trying to learn and understand and process about the distress associated with modern women and also with modern dating and modern relationships.
And people out there parroting ideas that in their twisted mind resonates with them because they're not well. I just want you to pay attention, because we come into contact with these people on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and they're putting out their toxic messages. I've been on YouTube for 14 years. I spoke on the phone with Anthony Powell when I first got on, and he was speaking that manosphere stuff. People talk about Black women. We're going to get into the story, but we need to disseminate. People talk about Black women. Also, I'm giving you all an opportunity to be able to share the video, share it in your WhatsApp group, put it in your story on Instagram, share it on your timeline on Facebook, because it's up to us. They said the revolution will not be televised. These messages need to get out. So I'm giving you a few moments while we do the opener for you to go on and share, right? So these people, they need help, and they're coming out.
And look at, guys, what Miss Dara said. And they said, and kitten heels ain't said blank. Whether you like Kevin Samuels or not is irrelevant. But the fact that you're trying to blame this man for this man's mental pathologies is unfair and it's unjust. And guys, we see it all too often. Many times men are accused of many things where there's no evidence. Some of the men that are listening, you guys have been accused. I've been through issues and times when I've been accused as well, where there was no evidence. And once again, men are used as scapegoats for injustice and also scapegoats for agendas. And what you're seeing now, guys, once again, is this woman that has close to 200,000 subs. It basically means that you got 200,000 women that believe and associate with Tanya TKO. So what does that say? You almost have almost 1 million subs, guys, that associate with Cynthia G. Not Cynthia G. Well, 100 with Cynthia G. But I can't think of the name, the lady that got arrested recently, but not arrested, but the one that looked like little boots. I can't think of her name. But Tasha K. And so you got almost 1,300,000 women that believe in the kind of rhetoric that you're seeing with this woman, Tanya TKO. So what does that say about our broader society when you got 1,300,000 women that agree with some of the rhetoric that Tasha K is spewing, Tanya TKO is spewing, also Cynthia G. And that's why I said, guys, and you guys are beginning to see it, that there's a remnant, because delusion disorders and many other disorders are running rampant in our society and community. You cannot blame Kevin Samuels for what this man did. I don't endorse violence, and I don't hope anybody that's listening to me are not violent or seeking to hurt people.
And they are, instead of getting help, they are looming themselves onto you, and you're wondering what's the matter with you. But no, it's that these people are sick. They're not taking care of themselves when they have the opportunity. I was telling you all, when I first got on YouTube, I spoke on the phone, because remember back in the days, YouTube was broadcast yourself, everybody was friends. I spoke on the phone with Anthony Powell. He was talking that manosphere stuff, and people come down on Black women in our response to all of this toxicity.
And see, guys, once again, it's burning me up. The manosphere is a response of men not being heard. Do you have some disturbed men, hopefully, sadly, roaming within male spaces? Of course. Just like you have demented women roaming in women's spaces. But those diminished few does not more or less represent the whole. What this woman is doing is a thinking error called overgeneralization. She's trying to associate all men in men's spaces as being damaging, violent, and hurtful. These spaces have helped a lot of men see things that were going through an existentialist crisis. But see, what Tiny the TKO is doing is what a lot of people do. They tend to associate any and all men with distress, and they tend to associate men with violent tendencies, and it goes uncharted, and it goes also unfinessed. And see, when that happens, then you have a lot of men that their development become arrested again, and they don't say anything for fear of retribution. Needs drive behaviors. I'm gonna say it again. Needs drive behaviors. When men don't get their needs met, what happens many times, you got two different things. Some become indifferent, but then some become violent. And see, I do not endorse violence towards any person, man or woman. But when you have women like Tanya TKO that's living through some of her own trauma, and it's clear she has a hatred for black men and all men, which is misandry, it's causing the issues, guys, that you're seeing in the greater society. We need to have conversations where women seek to understand where men are coming from. But for so long, the needs and the concerns of men are met on deaf ears. Like the brother D said earlier, Tyrese, Kanye West, Mike Tyson, and many others. When men begin to suffer in silence, and when men tell their stories, and when men try to say that they were impacted by toxic women, it just swept under the rug. But we wonder why we have men like Frank James running around that had underlying mental illness that took it to another level.
Online. These manosphere dudes have been here causing a ruckus since about 2000.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question. Is the manosphere responsible for people like Frank James? How has the manosphere or any male spaces or any male teachings helped you guys become better men? Is Frank James a byproduct of the manosphere, or is Frank James a byproduct of a guidance system that not seek to hear what men are saying? Did the granocracy make Frank James become worse, or make his mental pathologies become worse? So guys, you tell me in a minute as I continue to more or less listen to this whole time.
2010, when they started monetizing and people started flocking to the platform. 2009, it really kind of started to peek its head. Then 2010, it was in full swing. We had the Willie Peeps and the Sodomyers and all of these people coming out with their toxicness.
But you notice what time the TKO won't address. She won't address the behaviors associated with the things that the men are talking about. I'm going to say it again. She will not address the behaviors about the things that the men are talking about. She only associate the things that the men are talking about as being dangerous and bad. And once again, guys, that's overgeneralization. And also, guys, it's a thinking error. It's overgeneralization, guys. And also, it is a thinking error. Hold tight.
I spoke on the phone with Anthony Powell. And I was just like, his spirit, his energy.
Look at what Cookie Confidence said. She said, will you give a quick synopsis on what manosphere is for folks who don't understand, please? And see, guys, they're taking the opportunity to put you in the wanted category, to put you in the wanted listings. They want to really to emasculate you. They want you to be quiet. They don't want you to say anything. They just want you to go along to get along and take the liberal indoctrination that many of these women have had and more or less assuage it to your traditional thinking and your traditional worldview. But look at what Cookie Confidence said. She said, will you give a quick synopsis on what the manosphere is for folks who don't understand, please?
The stuff that he was saying, the anger that he had, I couldn't. A year or two later, in his anger towards black women, because we know that it's not even an anger, it's a sickness that exists inside that they're not taking care of. He went onto campus. He had a crush on Asia McGowan, and he opened fire on campus, right? Deleting her from life. Now here we have this man, Frank R. James. In a video that I was watching of him earlier, he was talking about his frequent trips back and forth to New York. We're gonna listen to some audio of him, some sick. He's a big Kevin Samuels fan. Listen, thank you all for sharing the video. We have 400 people on here. Go ahead. Well, we have 400 on YouTube, 162 on Facebook. I had a hater on LinkedIn telling me go back to Facebook. Some crazy black man on there. Listen, don't pay these people online any mind. Don't pay them no mind. But nonetheless, so let's jump into this real quick. Here we go.
He's there at NYPD headquarters in Manhattan, trying to connect the dots as much as they know at.
All right, guys, let me ask you what you guys got written thus far. A New Beginning says she wants a war, and I can see that. I can see how she could want a war. Blue Monster said that Frank James was hired by the feds. Yeah, I don't know. It's possible. Philip Williams said, oh my God, she's an angry woman using any term or definition of logic topic and switching around for her own emotional tirade. Yeah, you see what I see. Maurice Speaks the Beast said that women like this destroyed the community. Yes, they take things out of context, sadly. Byron Hamilton said that she doesn't care about black men. She's there to cause fear and alarm among women, her woman folk. Yeah, right. Shout out to my dear friend Keisha. How you doing, friend? A New Beginning said that black women are doing everything I want. Cynthia G is telling black women to stop having children with black men, but they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that, guys, and it's sad and it's also unfortunate. They don't talk about things like that, guys, and it's sad and it's also unfortunate. Let me let you guys finish listening to this, and I'm going to pull up something else I want you guys to see.
At this point for reporters and really for the rest of New York and the world. So a Philly connection we've learned tonight to today's violence in the New York City subway, because the person of interest they named, Wisconsin, they say his name is Frank James, 62 years old, and authorities say he rented a U-Haul truck in Philadelphia, and a key clue was a key they found to that U-Haul in possessions left behind in the subway. The question, the T they're trying to cross, if you will, is he in fact the shooter?
You know what? There's somebody saying I should put whip.
All right, so you guys see it, I saw it, and what do you guys think about this foolishness? But also, what do you guys think about this whole association about being wanted? Some of you men have been wanted many times. Some of you men have been accosted by many, and it's causing a lot of men to be under a state of distress. Tommy Sotomayor is the one that she called out, and I'm going to find the link in a minute, guys. I want to show it to you guys. And Tommy more or less talked about something that rings true. But Tommy, Kevin Samuels, Coach Greg Adams, the Angry Man, Minister Jap, and also Better Bachelor. These are men that have been more or less accosted by some as being on the hit list, similar to Frank James. And this kind of thinking, guys, is dangerous because it put men and their livelihood and their families in jeopardy based on lying and also based on thinking errors. How many of you men have been more or less put on blast and lied on based on a person's own paranoia, but also based on their own person's thinking error? And you men have lost time, you've lost money, you've lost resources because someone associated you with men like Frank James. And once again, guys, that's unfortunate, but it happens many times. Keisha Brown said, this is a clear case of misandry. They are poisoning well with this message as well as constructing a narrative that is simply destructive. I agree with you 100%, Ms. Brown. You're 1,000% correct. And it happens all the time. Philip Williams says she reminds me of the woman that I had to escape and do an ADV case on yesterday. She reminds me and sounds like her and looked like her in the eyes. Same body language, right? Once again, over 1 million women support Tasha K. Almost 200,000 supports Tanya TKO. Over 100,000 supports Cynthia G. If those kind of women are supporting those type of women, then what does it say about our greater populace? I told you guys that there's only a remnant that's left. It's only a remnant that's left. And these talking points and these shows are a response to what we're not seeing and what we're not getting to the single men. It's only a remnant that are left. And because of that remnant, a lot of men are becoming to get frustrated. Men come into these spaces to share and talk about their distress because they feel that there is a remnant, and many won't hear and more or less listen to some of the things that they're saying. Hold tight, guys. I want to show you guys something. You guys will hold tight. I want to show you guys something. I found it earlier, so hold tight if I can find it. Please bear with me because I want to show you guys what I found earlier. Hold tight. Hold tight, guys. I can't find it. Hold tight. But anyway, this was a clip. And this clip, guys, more or less talks about some of the things that many of you men that are listening are talking about. And Kevin Samuels talked about it. We're going to play a clip by him. And it's more or less talking about, hold tight. And more or less talking about the traditional, but also the things that many guys are seeing on a regular basis and their struggles and their frustrations with modern dating and modern relationships. Hold tight. Let me find it. I need you guys to bear with me. Hold tight. All right. So this is something that more or less reverberates what Tanya TKO is saying. And once again, guys, this is fair
Help
use.
you figure out which contract.
But this is what
right
many modern
job.
women think about you and think what you're worth. So hold tight. I'm going to play this clip. I'm going to play some of it. It's fair use. Once again, fair use. But I want you guys to hear this because this woman, guys, is an archetype of the thinking era and the lack of awareness that many modern women have as it relates to men and what men want. It's always when it comes down to men, they sell them. But they can have 5 or 6 kids by 5 different men. It's not an issue. But when a man say, I want a woman that's, a kind woman that hasn't had a lot of fun, she doesn't have kids by other men, then all of a sudden you're judging women. And so anytime men have preferences, it's always based on judgment and also ignorance. Hold tight.
Settle for a regular type dude.
How tall are you?
I am 5'3".
Dress size?
And that's why Kevin Samuels is on the wanted list by so many, because Kevin Samuels challenges some of their thinking errors. You don't have to agree 100% with what Kevin Samuels say. You don't have to agree 100% of what I say. But what Kevin Samuels does do is challenge some of their thinking errors. And because they don't like what he's saying, then Kevin Samuels is on the wanted list, just like Frank James. And any man associated with Kevin Samuels or any other content creator like Minister Jap, The Angry Man, Coach Greg Adams, or Bella Batchelor, or whoever else, that they are seeing this as hating women and not liking women. Anytime men have a preference, it's seen as hate. And that's a thinking error.
I am a medium.
Dress size? Number?
A 10.
How much did you weigh last time you weighed yourself?
157.
Fresh face out of the shower, just your natural face. On a scale from 1 to 10, what would you rank your looks?
Natural face.
Okay, fresh face out of the shower, your natural face. You can't use 7. What would you rank yourself? 1 to 10.
A 6.
Okay. A 6 is right above average. A 5 is average, right? You're 5'3", 100, dress size 10, so that's above average weight. 5'3", you should be roughly dress size 4. 4'6", 125 pounds. Even if I believe you're 157, 160, you're almost 33 pounds, 33% over your ideal target weight. And you have, listen. If you're average to cute looking,
Now, listen, guys, this woman is overweight in part, have 2 kids. She equivocates having a business with not having to settle for an average man. So average to her is a man making anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 a year, which is an insult, because that salary abroad, you will be seen as a king. But see, this is what some or many modern women think about you guys. And I'm showing you guys the evidence to let you form your own analysis to what needs to happen, how you should need to move forward. And that's why they don't like these shows. They don't like these platforms, because now men are beginning to see the misjustice and the ignorance and also the thinking errors, and men are beginning to speak out. And women like her and many don't like it because they don't value you. They see you as being less than them. And I'm trying to tell you guys that you have more power than you realize when you learn to love yourself.
If you're below average health from a weight standpoint, and you have 2 children, overall, does that make you below average, average, or above average? Factor all those things in together.
Average.
So why should you get anything over? Then why should you get above average? What do you mean settle for? You should get what you are.
I see millionaires with average women all the time.
They don't have big chest tattoos either, and 2 other kids. Man,
So
I'm just saying. Okay, I want to. No. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Why should an average woman say she's settling for an average man? Maybe
Ain't
that
nothing
makes
wrong with it. Wait.
No,
Ain't
you
nothing-
said so I should just
ain't
settle.
nothing
No, you said that.
wrong.
Listen. You said so I should just settle for an average guy, and I'm like, you're an average woman. Why should you not get?
I would be settling. I mean, nothing
Why
wrong with average.
why would you be settling and he wouldn't? So what would he be doing? Would he be upgrading?
He don't got no money. So if he don't have no money,
You ain't fine enough for no money.
I'm not fine enough for money.
No. You're
Average
6.
women
You're 5.
date
You're 5. You said
millionaires.
you're 6, ma'am. You said you're 6. You don't get money. You get second shift at the plant. Did you go to college?
No, I didn't.
Okay, ma'am.
I have my own business.
Congratulations. Don't care. Man, you got 2 children. And you said you are 6. I give you, 5, 6.
And see, guys, they always associate relationship symmetry with what they have monetarily. But see, most men that have their own money are not looking for your money. Most men that have their own money are looking for women that can complement them as men, meaning she ain't had a lot of fun. We understand that you're human, but she haven't been ran through. She don't have kids by multiple men. She's cooperative, and she's willing to come in and help that man become the better version of himself. And when she helped that man become the better version of himself, that man, if he's a good man, and I say if he's a good man, he will arbitrarily take care of that woman, take care of his seed, and put her in a better state or a higher state that she's already in. But this woman, 2 kids, chest tattoo, I'm sure she's had a lot of fun. And she said that you men making $40,000 to $60,000 a year is selling. Whereas 50 to 100 years ago, a man got a woman that was wife ready, wife worthy, a virgin, and no kids. But she thinks that she's selling for you because she makes more money. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And this is the tale of the modern hyena mindset.
Your numbers together would be average. So why? So an average man would be upgrading to get you.
Look, I didn't say
I'm asking, ma'am, because we're just having a conversation. You said you'd be settling, so by extension, he would be.
So I guess we'll be settling for each other.
Well, but no. But my issue is, you said settling for him. That means you'd be getting something less than what you deserve. When we settle, we get less.
I already have everything that I need. If he's not adding to me, then that will be settling, right?
Fabian, I want you to understand what I asked you last night. I asked this question oftentimes with Black women. If you have to work as hard today, or harder if you want children with a husband? Would you rather have a husband or be single? And almost 100% of the time, Black women would say, if I have to work as hard as I am today with a husband, I'd rather be single, because a husband is not, just by being a man ain't enough. He's supposed to make her life easier. Right. That is why I have no problem telling women to die alone. It is not our job to make women.
And see, guys, women like her and many modern women don't see your inherent worth, and they don't see your inherent value as a man. I told you, young men, especially my young men, my millennial men, my zennial men that are conscientious about getting a wholesome woman, you are the prize catcher, not only to the millennial men, but also to the Gen Xers. You guys are the single, you guys are the prize catchers. You determine if she's wife worthy or wife ready. Many women in other countries understand and know that, but some of you guys have become saboteurs of your own ignorance because you believe the hype. You have been victims of thinking errors. You have schema afflictions, and you have that schema affliction to the point that you don't think you can do anything better. And I'm here to challenge you, men, that you can do better, you can get better, but you got to remodify how you think to get the outcomes that you want. Keep listening.
Lives easier. It's our job to protect, provide, but that's not necessarily easy. It's harder. Relationships are hard. So, ma'am, you got all the things you need, except somebody to share life with. And the man who can meet your standards, okay? Can he meet other women's standards? Okay, then why should he not get the best? If he can meet your high standard, he can meet another woman's standard. And all I'm saying is that why should a man have to settle for a woman with 2 kids? Because you got a business?
They don't have, Kevin, they don't have to settle for me.
But you said you'd be settling for him.
Okay, just like you, Kevin, you say that high value men are supposed to have money, right? That's what you say. So if they don't have money, that means their value is low, right?
No.
And you go off women.
No. If you want to know,
a man's value is worth more than money. You had grandfathers and great grandfathers of the past that didn't have a lot of money, but they had a lot of wisdom. They had a lot of stick-to-itness. They had virtues and skills that are vital to becoming very successful. But see, imagine if men said that, if you don't have a vagina or if you don't have domestic skills, then you're not worthy enough to be a woman. A woman's worth is part of that, but her worth is just not tied to domestication. But see, this is what liberal indoctrination does, guys. It turns our own women against us. And what it does, it makes women become hypergamous, or what I call carnal hypergamous. Kosher hypergamy is fit and proper. When a woman says, I want a man that can provide and protect and take care of me and my kids. But she's not trying to be exploitative. But carnal hypergamy means she would ditch you for the next man or the highest bidder because she sees her needs as being more important and pressing than your needs. Once you men understand female nature, you will become optimized. Good women realize this, and good women realize they have to work on themselves so that they don't become victims or slaves of their own behavior. To the 6 of 1 that are watching, guys, get the likes up. If you have not donated to the channel, donate and share the content. Thank you, guys.
Oh, no. High value men, that's a completely different component. That's less than 10% of men. And high value men get high value women who are in high demand.
Right.
That's not your category.
Because I got kids, right?
You're not, ma'am. Yes. Would you say that you're a woman that's in high demand or most wanted?
I mean, yeah, I could be. I mean,
you could be. Listen.
Don't hold on. Tell you about myself.
Hold on. Ma'am, you're 37 with 2 children. Where in the world do women who are average to above average, average to cute, who are a little overweight with 2 kids, where are these women in high demand?
Kevin, I'm working on myself. So if
ma'am, I asked a very specific question. It's not because you're working on yourself. That's fine, but that doesn't mean you're in high demand.
I can get there, can I?
And
So
see,
you mean to tell me if I can lose 20 pounds and
80
I take
years
care,
ago, 80 years ago with a woman in your position, even without the children, 80 years ago would a woman in your position be with the top 10% man?
you said 80
80
years
years
ago.
ago. 80
Was she-
years ago. Would she be with a man in the top 10% of all men? 80 years ago.
Forget expensive solar panels. Get Tesla Solar and a Powerwall for no cost. Can you get paid $2,500?
Yeah.
No. There are a limited amount of these men to go around. Ma'am. So this one I want you guys to understand, especially in the Black community. You're an average woman by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's being fair. Average at best is more likely the term. Average at best would be pretty fair.
Okay,
But listen.
I'm listening.
But the issue is, so I got to settle for an average man. That's not settling. That's getting what you can afford to buy on the sexual marketplace.
Okay, so if I wanted a high value man, what do I do?
Be reincarnated. You can't get one. I'm gonna be honest, you can't. You're 37 with 2 kids. If they're less than 10% of the men, why would he pick you over a woman with no children?
But Kevin, I talk to pretty good high value. I go on dates with high caliber men.
Yes, they will go on dates with you. They will talk to you. They'll have sex.
And that's what some of these women don't understand. Men that got money and status have a rotation many times. The ones that have money but also are very cerebral. You know, I keep telling women, just because a man is in your DMs, it means nothing. You can have 100 men in your DMs, but many times they're either simps or they're men that are just trying to use you for sex. Free game. So just because you have 100 men parroting for your affection, it doesn't mean they want you for a relationship. Many times those men only want you for sex. You might have a few simps that want a relationship with you, but out of those 100, you only want 6 to 10 of them. And then you're going to minimize those 6 to 10 to like 3 or 4. And then you're going to just pick for that small selection pool. But in general, you might have penis options, but you don't. If you don't have husband options, then it means nothing, because if that man don't deem you a prize, even though you like that man, you're not going to get the ring. And you know, some of them don't get it. You guys, some of you women think just because you have 100 guys in your DM and telling you, calling you queen and beautiful, they want relationships, and they don't. Men will lie to you that they have sex with you.
Sex with you?
We talk about marriage. We talk about marriage.
I want you to understand, this is what the issue is, because I talked about this for a year and a half, because men will deal with you. What man of value, who is a high value man recognized by other men of value, what man that fits in that category is seriously vetting you to be a wife today?
I'm talking to someone now. I'm been dating this guy now who's a pretty high value, and we've been talking.
How old is he?
He's 51.
And what makes him high value?
He owns his own car dealership, and he has multiple businesses. He owns houses. Like he's doing pretty good for himself. He's probably not rich, but
ma'am, being high value is more than just money.
He got a good head on his shoulders. He got a good personality. He take care of himself. He work out. He don't even look like he.
Oh, Jesus Christ, ma'am. I'm trying to be reasonable, but it's more than just money. And I'm saying a man like, okay, why would a man? How can I say this without sounding rude? I'm trying to. Why would a man who has this going on, and what state are you in?
I am in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, I just said state. But anyway, why would a man who's choose a woman like that? Okay, if you say he's high value, to me, when I talk about high value, it's not just money. It's over a period of time. It's what you do. It's also men of value must recognize you as a peer or a potential peer. You got to have a network of high value men and others, and you must be useful to others in a group. So you judge a man not just on his money, by his network, by other men who say, yeah, that's a man of value. He's a mover or shaker, a most eligible. Okay, man, but these men don't settle. They don't settle. They don't get women who are. There are men on YouTube right now saying, I don't know what I'm talking about being high value. But here's one thing that they do agree with me on. They don't take a woman with children. They don't. Right. I've had men who vehemently
and that's what many don't understand. Top tier men that got money and status and they don't have kids, they're not taking on another man's responsibility. Many men see it as an insult. And I try to say these things because many women don't understand male psychology. You might have an outlier that might do it, but in general, and we're talking about general, they don't take women with children. And, just like men that don't have money and status, their value drops. And men that don't have leadership qualities, their values can drop. Money is not the antecedent to everything, but money does play a role, but it does not totally eclipse the value of the man. But this woman is clearly having a thinking error called overgeneralization, and also magnification, something that many modern women have.
Disagree with me on a lot of things. They don't listen to me, but unanimously, we don't take another man's children because that's not even in their mindset. They don't. So you ladies can call it what you want, and I'm thinking, how long have y'all been dating?
2 weeks now.
I said seriously, but considering you to be a wife in 2 weeks, ma'am. Yep.
I said we've been talking about it.
Ma'am, that's what I'm saying, ma'am. I said, what man of value who's recognized by other men of value is seriously betting you to be a wife? And you said this man, you ain't even known this dude for 2 weeks.
From the streets, I'm a bitch from the streets. I get the money.
It's your boy Big Snoop D-O-double-G, and I'd like to welcome y'all to So Dumb It's Criminal.
The only reason I'm pushing this hard, ma'am, is because it triggers me when I hear average women talking about settling for average men. And I'll be honest.
Why do it trigger you?
Because you'd be lucky to get an average man. He would be settling for you. He would be settling for you to have to deal with you, 2 children from somebody else. Yes, man, that's why. Because
say something.
No, you asked, let me finish. He'd be settling for you because
Because I got 2 children?
Amongst other things, yes.
I mean, I'm a good person to get along with. So.
That may be, ma'am. That may be. You could be a perfectly lovely person, but there are other women who are perfectly lovely people who are childless and more physically appealing.
That's fine.
So that means, ma'am, by definition, see, that's the thing. The kind of men you ladies talk about you want, they are rare. They are. For every man that falls into your category, there are thousands of women that want him. He can only have one wife. That's why.
You telling he gonna have a lot of wives. I mean,
no. He gonna have a lot. He gonna cheat a lot, but he ain't gonna have one wife. He can only marry one person. It's called bigotry. All right, that's enough. That's enough. No, that's enough. You can only have one wife. Don't. No. That's all. You can only have one wife. Nope. You sat there and why didn't you marry your baby daddy? This is
We grew apart.
Jesus, don't say it. You grew up. Softball. You grew apart. Was that before or after the second child?
The second child. We was getting into arguments and stuff.
So, and how long were y'all together?
We was together since we were teenagers.
See, that's the problem. There's another problem, man. You get no higher than your baby daddy. Because men look at a woman and they should look at her children, because men say, I'm not gonna go raise a lesser man's child. That's what happens.
You think all men think like that?
You think I got 1 million subscribers on each platform because I don't know what I'm talking about? You think I can do this night in, night out, and people co-sign? Ma'am, y'all would be better off to realize that more men think like this because the results show they do. You're almost like a mirror copy of Average at Best. The video that sparked a lot of this. She only had 1 kid, you got 2. Yes.
You trying to make it seem like I'm you trying to
I'm saying I'm making it seem no, I want you to
better.
understand that how we came in is the same thing that she said. You saying I would have to settle for an average man. And this is a men's platform. What do you think you were saying to all the men that are average men when you say that you will be settling for them? 50% of men are average or below. You don't have a problem offending them.
No, I don't want to offend nobody.
When you say you settle for, okay, ma'am, if I said I settled for you, would that make you feel good?
A lot of people settle.
If I said I settled for, don't see when a woman doesn't answer a question directly, she's attempting to be deceptive.
Yes, I'll be mad. Yeah, I'll be mad.
Right. Thank you. So don't play with me. So when you say you're going to settle for an average man, you don't mind offending.
And see, guys, you guys see that one-way aggression, not only in relationships, but also in domestic issues. Her needs are more important than your needs. But when you have your needs and when you call out the hypocrisy and the behaviors associated with modern women, as I did the show yesterday called Modernized versus Logic, it's always turned into hate, which once again is a byproduct of thinking errors that are byproduct of greater forms of mental illness and many times delusional disorder.
Them. So I have no problem telling you why I think it's crazy for an average woman. Average, you say you're 6, I'll give you a 6, 5, 6. Okay, fine. But all the other things, man, puts you below average. I want you to listen. Let's take it away from you and me. Let's take it away from you and me and looks and everything else because it's too personal. Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's reset the table. Okay, where would it make sense for a high school graduate who graduated with a C, a 2.0, a 2.0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would it make sense somebody like that demanding to get into Harvard, Princeton, MIT, Stanford?
No.
Would they be settling for junior college?
No.
You're JUCO. Junior college. 2.0. But the way you talk and women like yourself talk is like you deserve to get into Princeton, Harvard, MIT, Stanford. When you're a 2.0, going to junior college.
Can I say something?
Sure. I mean, and understand, people go to junior college and get associates, decide to go to junior college and go to a 4-year, and it would be far better in the world for women who are average to get with an average man, because an average man provides a woman options. But I don't want you to get with an average man and feel like you're settling. You need to treat that man with respect, because a man is worth more than a goddamn paycheck.
I would never. I mean, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, why would I disrespect them?
I'm talking about women in general. And well, you disrespected them by saying settling. That's why. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. Saying I'm settling is a condescending, disrespectful tone. Just like you say, you would feel some kind of way if I said I settled for you. But my grandmother settled for my grandmother had a 6th grade education. My grandfather had a 4th grade education. She settled for him and gave us a family legacy that we are still trying to measure up to. We are not doing nearly as well as the people who had less education and more hard circumstances.
And sadly, Kevin is right about that. It's never enough. You know, there was a time where the men would send their wives to college to be teachers, and they were farmers, and the women honored and respected those men. But this generation of women actually complain more, demand more, but have not contributed as much. Times of the past were not perfect. My grandmother and some of those women those times had their issues too. Some of them actually created the modern woman because some of them were sick and frustrated with their circumstances. But there were many women of the past that enjoyed their husbands and their families. And what you guys are seeing now is a manifestation of over-entitlement, which some think that they deserve better and will get better.
Answers in the Black community before us. We are not good stewards of of their legacy. And part of the reason is because our women are so out of line. You think you're settling or should get more, and you can't get more. There are only a handful of these men, but the rest of women get men who roughly around their area. Yes, it's okay to want something better. It's okay to graduate with a 2.0 and want to get into Princeton or want better, but you got to be realistic and pick. Now, again, everybody who thinks I'm being a little harsh or whatever, she's 37 with 2 kids and still hasn't put together any real thought about what a marriage or a relationship should be. But y'all focus on my tone and my delivery and this and that. And all I'm sitting here trying to do is tell women like you, ma'am, that you would be life is better with somebody on your level. And understand something. I'm gonna say this and I'll let you speak. If I put you with a high value man.
I think most people who've had COVID will tell you when you get it, you know you have it.
And you were his wife and you went around these places, do you feel like you would fit in a room with these women, their wives?
Yes, because I'm classy. I'm not a ratchet type woman.
And say you're ratchet.
I know how to speak. I know how to drink from a glass. I mean,
ma'am, they would look, ma'am, ma'am, they would look at your chest tattoo and rule you out.
I could cover that with makeup, Kevin. I wouldn't even have
okay.
this type of
Okay. And see, that's another thing. I've had so many women who were married to these kind of men say, these women have no idea how snarky and how vicious these women can be.
And I got this when I was young.
It doesn't matter, ma'am. You got it. You still got 2 kids out of wedlock, ma'am. They're gonna all the woman would have to do is like, oh, hey, how you doing? Hey, Roger, here's your wife. Hey, Miss Cleveland. Hey, how you doing? So Roger, yeah, he's a VP of marketing, And where'd you graduate from college? What? Ohio? State? Michigan?
And when you move in circles like that, the women can be very snooty, and they can be very condescending, and it can make you feel less than if you don't have a higher constitution.
You didn't graduate. Oh, you didn't graduate from college. Okay, all right.
Mr. Kevin,
I'm just telling. Okay, never mind. They don't get it. They don't get it.
Can I say something? You said
you can say something. Go ahead.
I thought you said like college and all of that type of stuff didn't matter.
I said to men it doesn't matter, but I asked you being in the room with their wives. When you're in with the soccer moms and the 4-H club and the junior league and all these other women, women size you up. They're looking at everything about you, and you know how women can be. And if you don't, let me tell you, these women, they look at everything.
But
all right, never mind. It's enough. It's enough.
Can I? You said
at the end of the day, no, you don't get a high value men want something for their value. You may be a perfectly lovely woman, but they're limited in supply. And if you had as many options as he does, would you settle for a man like you? Would you settle for a woman like you? Would you do that? If you had as many options as men as he has in women, would you settle for you?
Yes, I would.
Of course you would. Outside of your mind. That's
and you guys are seeing it firsthand, man. That is the delusions that exist. But Tommy Sotomayor has been on the hit list of a lot of the wanted. And, Tommy has been on the list of men wanted for, misgivings and also people equivocating Tommy Sotomayor as being a bad person. I'm going to show a clip of Tommy that he had a couple of years ago. And guys, this is what's happening now in these modern times as anytime men try to talk about what they want or need, it's minimized. It's always minimized when men talk about their desires and their needs, and it's always equivocated with hate. Some of you men have been through it. I've been through it. When men say what they want, then it's always an issue. And Tommy Sotomayor has been on the hit list for years, guys. Hold tight. I'm going to show it to you. And this video was taken back in 2013. So hold tight. I'm going to show it to you guys. And this is fair use. Hold tight, guys. This is fair use. I want to blow this video up. Let me put fair use because this is for education. But this education is about showing the thinking errors that so many of our modern women have as it relates to what men want, what men deserve, and what men desire. So thank you to the 7 that are watching. Get the likes up, guys. And I'm going to show you this clip, and you guys look at the evidence for yourself. So Tommy did this video about in 2013, and Tommy has been associated with hating women. And, you know, Tommy, in my opinion, is probably the original OG of the manosphere. Even though Angry Man created it more or less, Tommy has been doing work for years. So listen to what Tommy's saying. Ow! And whether you like Tommy or not, and you know, I don't agree with everything Tommy says, and sometimes his delivery is off-putting. But
Tommy,
does Tommy have merit to what he's
women
saying?
Allowed to have standards and men are. Women feel like.
And remember, guys, this was almost 9 years ago, but it still holds true today. That's why advocates that talk about a better and growing Black community, I say, how? When this was back in 2013 and it's gotten worse than that. Listen.
Whatever they want is important. They can never ask for enough, but what men want, all of a sudden they're being picky and they're too demanding and it's unrealistic, and why they want everybody to be perfect.
That's a great question. I've always wondered that, and it's insane if you think about it. Now, and I want you guys to hear me out. A woman can say, and I've heard it myself, I will not date a man under 6 feet. Now, my height has nothing to do with the type of guy I am. Will not determine if I'm a good guy in bed. Will not determine how big my penis is. Because, well, if you get to the point where you shack, that thing should be commensurate to his size. And you wouldn't want that if you're a 5'3" woman, I'm assuming. So it doesn't have anything to do with my checking account unless you say, well, over 6 feet is a higher chance that he's some kind of athlete. I don't know. Studies show that shorter men actually make more money. Why? Because they work harder, because they got to get over their Napoleon complex. But women are still allowed to have that thought. Also, when I was younger, women told me, I will not date a dark-skinned man. There's nothing wrong with that. They would say, I want my baby to have pretty eyes, pretty skin, pretty hair. And they were able to say this, and the man has never been allowed to check a woman on this.
Right.
The woman has been able to say she want a man with money. Nobody has ever said that woman money struck, although they probably should.
Now, listen, guys, this was back in 2013. 10 years later, the pathology exists where she can have her needs met, but anything associated with what men want is always castigated as hate.
But if a man says he only wants to date a woman that's light-skinned, they call him color-struck, even though we keep saying that one drop of black makes you black. So what is the problem with a man saying that he likes a certain type of black? Do you think I'd walk inside of Baskin-Robbins right now and say, I really like this chocolate ice cream, and a week later, I just keep ordering chocolate ice cream, and the person behind the counter would say, hey, you're chocolate struck. You need to try all 31 of these flavors. You think they'd say that? Not at all. They would understand.
And one thing that Tommy does, you know, the show I had yesterday, guys, was called Logic versus Modernized Thought. And you guys are seeing how these shows parallel. Logic versus modernized thought. Some of these women have what's called a syntonic ego. A syntonic ego, as I've said in the past, is a byproduct of delusional personality disorder. Syntonic egos, the way they feel is how they're supposed to feel. But see what logic does, logic supersedes modernized mania. And modernized mania have told average women that they deserve better and they should get better, but yet they don't have the results to show that they deserve that better that they're looking for. And that's the sign of delusional thinking.
Understand that you have the option and you have a choice. Well, what's the difference between the men and the women, though? Women are allowed to have ideas that they like. Women will tell you, I don't date a man without a job. And all you can do as a man is go get a dadgum job. Women can say they don't date a man who don't know how to dress. He ain't got swag. You know, that intangible's something that you have. I don't know what swag is. You can't measure it. But women somehow have a swag meter and you don't fit it. But as a man, say that you say you don't want to date. Boris Kodjoe said, a woman getting fat is against his marriage policy. That's what he said. Said there's grounds for divorce, and women were upset.
And see, once again, women in other cultures, like in Latin cultures, women from Latin cultures understand that in order to keep a man happy, weight symmetry and keeping your weight under wraps is important if she's going to get taken care of. We understand that women have kids for their husbands, but that's no excuse because many women know how to modify their diet, work on themselves, and keep that top tier man happy. But see, guys, here's the problem. Men in other countries get average women, and women in Latin countries and some African countries, they still keep themselves in their shapes appealing because the thing that call a man is keeping your shape on point. But once again, anytime men say what they want, guys, it's always an issue.
Why is he not allowed to say that? I mean, ladies, if I was a hardworking man when you met me, and let's say 3-5 years later, I decide I want to enter the Madden tournament. I want to be the Madden king. I want to go back to my college days. And now I'm sitting on the couch all day and playing Madden. I quit my job. Now, if you told your friends, I broke up with him because he don't work no more, they would say, girl, you should have. But I'm not supposed to be able to look at my friends and say I broke up with her because she don't work out no more. I tell women all the time, if you don't work out, then we won't work out. That's just my saying. I need to put that on a t-shirt. But the point is, men have a hard time saying they have standards. A man can say, I will only date women with big breasts. That's shallow. You notice you've never heard a woman called shallow, and there's no one more shallow than women? Everything with a woman is aesthetic. A man in a nice car can get a fine woman. Is that not shallow? A man with a nice suit can get a fine woman. Is that not shallow? I haven't seen too many ugly chicks walking around Hollywood. Why is that? I haven't seen too many ugly chicks on Rodeo Drive. Why is that? I haven't seen too many dudes with nice cars have an ugly chick in the passenger side. So who's more shallow than women? Women are allowed to be so shallow that if they get pregnant by an ugly man, they'll blame it on the other man that they were sleeping with just because they would rather have that other man who they assume would be either a good father or whatever.
To the 73 that are watching, do you guys agree with Tommy Sotomayor? Do you agree with what Kevin Samuels said? If you agree with what Kevin and Tommy are saying thus far, I need you guys to hit 1. But if Kevin and Tommy needs to be on the wanted list and they need to be accosted, I need you guys to hit 2. Shout out to Brittany B. Guys, get the likes up, share the content. If you have not donated, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for all you do. I love you and your support. Thank you.
It is. And no one questions a woman's motives. Yet us as men, we're not allowed to have standards. We can't say we only date women with big butts. We can't say we only date women over 6 feet. We can't say we only date white women. We can't say we only date light-skinned women. The only thing a man can really say is that he only dates dark-skinned women or fat women, because kind of like and people always wonder why I use this description, so I'll do it again. The retarded kids in the class. Well, there's 2 groups that make the most noise, and you don't really care because when the retarded kid says, I want 4 gold medals, no one really cares. I wasn't trying to compete with you in the Special Olympics. But when somebody says that guy won 5 gold medals at the Olympics, everybody gets mad. It's the same thing. No one really cares what dark-skinned women say and what fat women say because they believe that they both need self-esteem. Yet a man can be called fat and we have to deal with it. Nobody feels bad about a fat man. Nobody feels bad about a broke man. A broke man is made fun of. A man that cannot help take care of his kids is made fun of. A woman that cannot take care of her kids, she's helped by the government. So do we not understand that there's a big problem here, a chasm, as you will, which allows women to be able to have standards and men not? We need to change this. Everybody can have standards and preferences, and then none of it is shallow, because when it comes to dating and marriage, the only person that's going to take that penis is you. So you should be able to pick whoever you want. And if we really believe that dating and marriage was what it was supposed to be, which is for the rest of your life, rich or poor, till death do us part, that kind of stuff, then we would do a better job at picking our mates than we do picking our houses. Have you noticed that a lot of you guys have had houses longer than you had relationships?
And people can say what they want to say about Tommy, even though Tommy can be very violent with his language at times. Tommy is very logical, and Tommy makes a lot of sense. And Tommy is the antithesis to irrational and illogical thinking. He's the antithesis to illogical and irrational thinking. When you get Tommy at his core, Tommy's not a bad person. Tommy is a man that's been through a lot, but many times Tommy acts out through anger and frustration, because when he tried to convey logic to many, even though you don't have to agree with all his points, it's always met with silence or people trying to attack him.
Your houses last longer than your relationships. Your houses last longer than your marriage. But you take your time out to pick your house. You don't take that same time out to pick a husband, a boyfriend, whatever it is you want. Same way when you go looking for a house or a car, anything else, you should be able to get it, especially if you only get one. Women want men to lower their standards. Here's how you do it. Let me have more than one woman. Let me sleep with a bunch of women. Oh, I'll pick the one with the big breast, the one that's sweet, the one that's cooked. All these, I'd pick them. I'd be okay with it. But if you're asking me to pick just one woman, then understand both of our standards should be high. Not just mine, not just yours. We all have things that are deal breakers. There's nothing wrong with if my deal breaker is you're fat. There's nothing wrong with if my deal breaker is you're dark skinned. And people say, well, you're dark skinned. Yeah, I got a penis too. I don't want my mate to have one. You ever notice how opposites attract? I don't have breasts. I really like breasts. I don't have a butt. I really like a butt. I like vagina. I don't have one. So stop having the stupid logic that because you look and sound and say a certain something, you should want someone to do the same. Because if last I checked, you couldn't put a puzzle together that way. You couldn't put a car together. You couldn't put a team together if everybody did the same thing. So stop being so hard on people that don't want you. The only people that claim somebody else is shallow are the people who didn't get chosen. Please remember that. So as long as women can have standards, men can have standards. Want to do away with standards? Do away with this idea of I can't cheat. But then that's just me.
All right, you guys saw it firsthand. You guys are beginning to see the causal chain. You guys are beginning to see the causal chain associated with men wanted and men being on the hit list, and any man associated with Kevin Samuels, Thomas Sotomayor, Greg Adams, the angry man, Minister Jap, or Better Bachelor are seen as negative. And so once again, guys, as I said earlier, those are conditions that we call thinking errors. But I got another one for you guys. I got another one, because you guys are beginning to see the most wanted list in the manosphere. And I don't know if Tommy associates with the manosphere. He's probably affiliate, but I don't think he's part of it. I just associate with it. I can't say I'm part of it, but I do respect a lot of the talking points. But Greg Allen talks about it too. You see how it's parroting to the things that I'm talking about. It's parroting the things that I'm talking about. When men say what they want, the woman you guys saw a couple of minutes ago, that woman said, guys, that she wanted a man that made less and made more money or as much money as her. But when men say, I don't want a woman that's overweight and kids or was promiscuous, then all of a sudden it's a problem. So Coach Greg Adams also is a clarion caller. I don't think Coach Greg Adams is associated. He's not associated with the manosphere. A lot of men just have similar talking points, and it makes you think they're part of it. But Coach Greg Adams is another phenomenal, intelligent brother.
We call going on right now beta male energy. Beta male energy right now going on in society. We're seeing it. Now look at these numbers right here. They have what we also call single mothers are heroes. Look at this, 1950. These are percentage of births that are to unwed women. We think single motherhood has been around for a long time. It really hasn't.
And he's right. It's having. And I remember guys growing up where it was shameful, and those that did it were pariahs in the community. That's why as a Gen Xer, I don't identify with some of the things that many people identify with now. There was a time that men had standards. There were times where women had higher standards. And there was a time where women held each other accountable. They held the dusty men accountable, the unfit men, and the women held themselves accountable. And they held other women accountable. Other women shamed other women for bad behavior. But look how the world is upside down now. Now women shame other women for good behavior. I'm going to say it again. There was a time where women shamed bad women, good women shamed bad women at the bottom for bad behavior. But now they're shaming good women, bad women are shaming good women for good behavior. And true to the gospel and prophecy, there will become a time where they will be called good evil and evil good. And as Bishop Charles E. Williams said, y'all ain't gonna talk to me.
This is a new concept, and they use marketing campaigns to get you to accept it. 1950s, 5%. Not a lot of children born to unwed mothers. We get to 2012, we're almost dang near half. Okay, some communities, 70% of the children born to unwed mothers. What typically happens right now, the father absence is a crisis in America. 19 million children, more than, well, we're approaching half at this particular point. This is in 2017, live without a father in the home, okay? And I'm telling you this for a reason.
And guys, you wonder why we have so many pathologies in our community. You wonder why our boys have such a low self-esteem. You wonder why our girls don't feel loved and our girls don't feel like they're valued, and why they give their assets away for free, because we have a very broken community and we have broken families. And these broken families are not endemic only to people of color. This is a westernized issue that's beginning to precipitate not only with Black people, but with white people and Latin people as well. I would say Asians are lower on the totem pole because they tend to still adhere to traditional values and traditional norms. But when we try to tell the truth or be clarion callers, many have schema afflictions. And, you know, now almost 7% of kids, or almost 80%, are born out of or in single parent homes. Then for those that are advocating for a more better union or a better community, what is that going to do for our children, our boys especially, and also our young girls? Because I want my girls to get husbands, but look at the community now. It's broken.
Because the guys that want to be fathers, the 4 or 5 of you that raise your hands, probably half of you will not even raise your kid from 0 to 18. You won't even have the authority to do so. The systems are already in place. They got a whole bunch of things in place for you to not be in that home. Your job is to maintain that authority. Remember, I said, oh, being a father is not enough, or wanting to be a father is not enough. You have to have the authority. You have to be willing to lead. Okay. So what does that lead to? Kids that grow up without a father, 4 times as much to be raised in poverty, 7 times likely to be a teenage pregnancy victim, more likely to experience child abuse. That's normally because potentially the single mother, the co-parent, has moved in another man into your domicile, into her domicile. Okay, behavioral problems. Who in here was raised by 2 parents? Okay, wow, look at this. Okay, that represents, remember that graph I showed you? That represents that. Okay, what about this? Incarceration. They talk about mass incarceration. More likely to go to prison. The stat that I put in my second book, De-Evolution, 73% of the prison inmates were raised in single parent households, primarily single mothers. Okay, child obesity. Are we seeing this today? Are we not seeing this? Okay, 2 times as likely to suffer from obesity. Why? Video games, social media. We're going to get to that. Crime, more likely to be a criminal. Somebody said one time in the 80s, oh, the numbers of the crime rate is going down. Okay, while single parenthood was going up. They wanted an explanation. Well, why is that happening? Okay, it's happening because they're all in jail, right? Can't be out there committing crime when you're already locked up. Education, 2 times more likely to drop out. See this? Beta male energy right here. This is beta male energy, okay? And the media can get to your kids to incite you to do anything when you don't have an authority figure around.
Right. And see, guys, anything that's associated with strong and heteronormative masculinity, they're going to put you on the wanted list. Just like they got Coach Greg Adams, some have him on the wanted list. Just like they got Tommy Sotomayor. As I said, as men, we may not agree on all things, and we don't always agree on all things or ideologies, but we become allies of a common cause only to go away when the crisis is over. Coach Greg Adams is a man that's had an awakening. Better Bachelor is a man that's had an awakening. Kevin Samuels, Tommy Sotomayor, Minister Job, and also the angry man. These are men that have had an awakening. But when these men have awakenings, then people put them in anything pertinent to masculinity on the wanted list.
Incite you into this division. Now you see me, I'm black, but this right here ain't it. This ain't it. This is right here being a victim. Now, if you have a father that's leading you, you're not going to be a victim. If you got a father that's leading you, you're not going to say, yeah, let's go outside, son. If you grew up with a father, you're not going to be out there thinking that this is going to make a difference. See, I teach my kids they're not victims. You make your own way. You design your own path. You don't go out there and yell and scream in the streets to try to force people to give you something. This is beta male energy. And I called it out. I'm not afraid to call this out on social media. Okay? I called it out from day one that this ain't it. Okay? What about this stuff? Anybody hear this? It's a movie called Cuties, in which these girls represent 11-year-old girls. Okay? And they're in provocative poses designed to, well, the producer of the movie and the director, oh, this is a coming of age film about girls developing and realizing their sexuality and their power. Really?
And see, guys, if you're not from countries that endorse socialistic thought or cultural Marxism, you don't understand how the culture is being shaped to more or less be conformed to ideologies and thinking patterns that are not synonymous to not only tradition, but also to male empowerment. That's why I do what I do, because anytime you men begin to speak out, you're going to be on the wanted list. Anytime men speak out, you're going to be on the wanted list.
Is that what you're calling it? Because this looks like none of them had a dad. This looks like all of their mothers dragged them down to the audition and said, this is the only way to do it. Let's sell that peace leave. If you've been listening to my content, you know what that is. Let's sell it because that's all we got, girls. See, if these women have fathers, these young girls have fathers, you're not going to let your daughters go out there and do any of this. Okay? Even if you were in a marriage, okay? Even if you're in a marriage, a lot of men right now, you're in hand-pecked relationships, meaning she's the authority figure in the house. Mm-hmm. You can't even say anything about raising the kids because she believes she owns the kids.
Right.
We're going to talk about that.
And once again, you guys are seeing it for what it is. You guys are beginning to see it for what it is as it relates to modern times. We have covered Tommy, Kevin Samuels. We've covered Coach Greg Adams. And then we're going to cover Bella Bachelor. Bella Bachelor is covering the story with Cam Newton, and Bella Bachelor is a white brother. But all the men are saying similar and more or less same things. Hold tight. And Bella Bachelor has some very good commentary, and he is frustrated with what's going on. I'm not going to show all of this, but we're going to show some of it. So hold tight. Hold tight, guys. Fair use, guys.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Today,
and so you guys are seeing a causal chain. They want traditional men, but when men want traditional women, then it's an issue. And see, that's why so many men are frustrated. That's why deranged men like Frank James had a mental health connection and a mental health crisis. Once again, guys, we do not endorse behaviors associated with Frank James. What Frank James did was heinous. But however, the culture that we lived in helped shape the pathologies that already existed with Frank James. And it's unfortunate.
Hey, I want to talk another video about. The last video I did was about the girl being all confused. Why doesn't anybody want to date my brother because he's a great guy? And again, we know all the problems with that. Well, this is what blows me away. Women want traditional men. Women want strong traditional men. They want men that'll be providers and that are attractive and top-notch men. And when guys say, all right, what are you bringing to the table? They go, oh, how dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you ask what I'm bringing my flower bud / ham sandwich, right? They say, okay, I'm here. You get me. Well, Cam Newton, who's an NFL star quarterback, I used to live in North Carolina. I don't know if he still plays for North Carolina Panthers.
Shout out to the Tar Heel State, the greatest state in the union. Shout out to Coach the Better Bachelor, also the Angry Man, and of course, Fire for Your Mind, the Coach of Clinician, because all three of us at one time either live or were part of the Tar Heel State. The Angry Man and I are still in North Carolina, and the Better Bachelor used to live in North Carolina as well.
But he was a good quarterback. I don't know if he still is quite as good. He's kind of popped out of the top ratings, I think, but he's still a good quarterback. He's being shamed for wanting a traditional woman. Now, what do I mean by a traditional woman? I mean traditional, like a woman that, quote, knows her place. Now, that's not going to get him very far probably in today's society, but he's under fire for disgusting comments about women. It's amazing that women can say, I want a tall guy. Oh, okay. Don't we all? I want a guy that makes good money or has muscles or is traditional, will take care of me, will support me, will be a good father for my children. And everybody says, of course you do. But then when a man says, I'd like a woman that maybe doesn't have a zillion partners and can still pair bond with me and fall in love with me and keeps herself in relatively good shape and doesn't get too overweight and takes care of the household. I mean, this guy's bringing in millions of dollars. She stays home, takes care of the kids, takes care of my home. I will pay for all her needs, and she just needs to take care of me. And then they say, how dare you? You pig, you disgusting man. Woman should know her place. Shut up. But then when a guy says, well, I'm not going to be a provider for a woman, know my place. My place isn't a provider. You have a job, pay for your own way. They freak out. And until they change their tunes, men are like, no, I'm not going to be provider if you're not going to take any traditional roles. You can't cook, you're out. You don't want to put out when I'm kind of in the mood, you're out. Because if you want something from me, if you want to go out to dinner or maybe go on vacation or whatever, if I don't monetarily put out, then I'm shamed. Then I'm called out. That I'm not fulfilling my role as a man. But if you don't fulfill your role as a woman, that's okay. It's stunning and brave. Nah, we're done with those games. So they say NFL star Cam Newton has been condemned on social media. Oh, his life's over or whatever. Who cares? For repulsive and disgusting comments he made about women. You notice disgusting's not enough. They have to throw in repulsive. Now, this is from Newsmax, which is kind of I think, a little bit more conservative. So I think they're kind of poking fun at it a little bit. But Newton sparked outrage when, during an appearance on $1 Million Worth of Game podcast on Sunday, he said women need to know how to cater to a man's needs. The topic came up about while Newton was discussing his upbringing and how he was raised by his father, whom he called the perfect example of what a man was. So let's start with his first comment here. How to cater to a man's needs. Nothing wrong with that. I'd say as a girlfriend or wife, you better cater to your man's needs or he will not stay with you. He will not want you. He won't want to be with you. Because if you flip it around and you say, hey, a man needs to know how to cater to his woman's needs, stunning and brave. Exactly right. Take care of your queen, king. I say that ironically. But if a guy says, okay, well, you want a king, you better be a queen and make sure to take care of me, they get all butthurt and upset about it. He said, my parents have been together for 36.
And see, guys, the issues that we're having now is that men still want traditional women. But see, we live in a time where modern women won't, because they have what's called modernized mania, they want to be modern, but they want you to be traditional. And it's causing a lot of men to become frustrated because they're not getting their needs met. And when men speak out, true to form, as I said earlier, they're put on the wanted list.
37 years now, and it's a beautiful thing. I grew up in a 3-parent household, my mom, my father, and my grandmother, he said, and I know what a woman was. Not a bad B. Oh, he said, not a bad B, a woman. So she can't be the sandy beach. She's got to be a woman. Don't come with all this attitude and I'm a bad woman. Respect me. He's like, no, no, you need to be a woman. And what's he mean by a woman? You need to be feminine. You need to let the man lead the way. Take charge of the relation. You want a strong man? Let him be a strong man. You want to be a strong woman? You're not going to get a strong man because, I mean, you're going to be headbutting constantly. And no man wants that. Now, you want a weak, effeminate, soft man that will cry every time elevator music comes up.
How many of you men want traditional women? If you want traditional women that are wife worthy and wife ready, I need you guys to hit 1. How many of you men want traditional women? And what percentage of women do you men think are traditional?
On about, I don't know, a beach romance. Okay. You can have, and you can be that strong woman, but you're not going to get a strong man if you're this strong, empowered woman. Not going to happen. Newton went on to say that the bad bee was a person who looked the part but didn't act the part. He said, and it's a lot of women who are bad bees. And I say bees in a way, not to degrade a woman, but just to go off the aesthetic of what they deem as the boss chick. Now, a lot of women call themselves, I'm a boss bee, right? I'm the boss chick. I'm strong, independent woman. He's like, look, it's not happening. I'm not interested. He says, I don't want to, and he's even saying like the B word itself. He says, I'm not using that derogatorily to call you that. This is kind of what you call yourselves. Now, I'm a top bad B chick. And he's like, no, I'm not having it. He said, a woman for me. Now, this is the important part of his quote, a woman for me. He's not saying all women need to be like this. He's not categorizing all women. He's just saying, look, a woman for me. These are my preferences. And everybody's giving him a hard time about this. He said, but a woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs. I think a lot of times when you get that aesthetic of like, I'm the boss chick, I'm a this, I'm a that. He says, no, baby, but you can't cook. You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
Lead, right.
I see nothing I disagree with. Because remember, he's not saying all women need to cook. All women need to be quiet. All women need to let men lead. He said, no, for me, you need to let me lead. You, if something's going on, something's going down, you need to know to be quiet and let me handle it. And if you want me to bring in millions of dollars, I want you to know how to cook. I want you to keep yourself in a decent shape, which he didn't.
And I told you guys that fair exchange is no robbery. I want you guys to let that resonate in your minds. Fair exchange is no robbery.
Even say, I would personally. But all of a sudden, there's outrage over this. You want to know what makes good men leave the market? Here you go. Now you're shaming men for saying, hey, I just got a couple preferences. But remember, a woman can say, I want a strong man, powerful man, 6 figures, 6 inches or more. 6 figures, 6 inches, 6 foot tall, 6-pack. He's got to be this, 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 this. And if a guy were to say, no, man, you're asking too much. Oh, how dare you? They freak out again. Until women's standards come way down to in level of what they bring to the table, we're going to have some problems. They say it was not long before fans on social media were calling him out for his statements. Let me be clear about this. These aren't fans. These are the femboids, robots that go out. Man said something empowering and strong. I must attack him. These are all the bots going out there. Somebody says, I can't believe this repulsive and disgusting comments from Cam Newton regarding women in any context. He is turned out in my world forever. Oh, I'm sure his life is over. Unbelievable. One Twitter user wrote. Who cares? Now, they have a highlight here. Now, let me just put it on me for a second. Let's see how many, because I don't want to dox or call out this person. That comment, are you ready? That comment has 2 likes. That comment has 2 likes. That's it. So for those of you that call me out and you say, oh, fake news, these, how can you accept something from Reddit? They're writing an article and they're quoting somebody here that has 2 likes on their comment. Shame on you, Newsmax. Another infuriated fan tweeted, now, at Cam Newton, pretty disgusting how you represent men out there. And I use the word men in quotes pretty loosely when it comes to you. You must be pretty desperate for attention. Shame really that you don't really care if it's negative attention, just as long as you're getting some. Now, this person, let's see. This person got 0 likes. Not kidding. 0 likes, 0 retweets, 0 comments.
And guys, what you're seeing is the conditioning of a very decadent society. That's why I tell guys, and that's why I let you guys see this causal chain. It's only a remnant that's left. But is the remnant worth saving? Are you guys willing to put in the work to find the remnant? I pray that you single men that are looking for wives find your queen or find the woman of your dreams. But if you're looking for traditional women in these modern times, and we understand the traditional don't always mean old school traditional, but traditional in a sense where the woman respects and honors her man, then it's going to be an issue. But once again, they still expect you to be traditional. Remember this, when it comes down to men doing what they need to do, then men are expected to be traditional. But when it comes down to women doing what they're supposed to do, then they can be modern. And that's a byproduct of modernized mania.
So we're not even getting people with any agreement. So yeah, a couple of people are saying this, but no one's agreeing with them. So far, this article is about this article is about 2 comments that in total have what I say. The other one had two likes, and this one has 0. So far, we've got 2 comments with 2 likes for a total of 4 people agree with this. So why write this article? If you can't take care of yourself, just say that another person wrote. Let's see if anybody agrees with them. If you can't take care of yourself, just say that. 0 likes, 0 retweets, nothing. So we're making this story and putting this out there over nothing. But it's still important. Why? Because it's in the news. This whole article is written about his comments and 4 people that said something bad about it that no one even liked it or agreed with. But they put it in the news. And why do they put it in the news? Are they trying to shame Cam? Are they trying to point out how ridiculous some people are? I don't know. Someone else from Mediaite, which is a trash garbage site anyway. They have an article and they wrote, the same man who laughed at a female reporter for a valid question said something misogynistic. I, for one, am shocked. Another Twitter wrote sarcastically in reference to a 2017 press conference during which he belittled a female sports reporter from the Charlotte Observer. Jordan Rodriguez.
And what Cam was talking about, guys, was route running. Cam Newton was talking about route running. That's what he was talking about. I'm going to get back to it. But what Cam was talking about was route running. Cam grew up in a traditional family with a traditional mother and a father. And that's what happens, guys, a lot of times when, people grow up in traditional homes. Many times it's not equivocated. This is the clip that Bella Batch is talking about.
I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. It's funny.
Now, should he have said it? Perhaps not in this liberal environment, but I understood what he was trying to say. Now, even sports, men feel like they don't have the power to share their concerns or say what they want to say, even in sports, because they feel like many of the male space have been infiltrated. And that's all Cam was saying. But back to point what Bella Batchelor is saying, guys. Hold tight. Let you guys listen to this. And you guys are beginning to see that when masculine men speak out, they're on the one of this.
Embracing the physicality of roots during the game. It's funny to hear a female talk about roots like it's funny. Newton laughed back. And what's that about? A reporter, a female reporter asking him about running routes. And he's like, He just laughed. He's like, it's funny to hear a female reporter talking about roots. Why? Because she's never run one. She's never played college. She's probably never done a lot of deep analysis and drawn out any roots. So to hear a woman asking questions about roots, he's like, yeah, it's kind of funny. And a root is when they hike, for the non-American football player watchers, that's when they hike the ball and the receivers go out, they run roots or routes, depending on how you want to pronounce it. They traditionally, I guess you'd call it a route, but that's where they go out and they run a pattern to try to mess with the defense so they can get open and get a pass. But again, and I'll be honest with you, before I even started doing this video, I didn't look up how many people were angry about this. I just saw the story and I'm like, how crazy is it that people are upset with a guy for wanting a traditional woman? I didn't realize they were basing this off 4 angry tweets. So maybe since no one agreed with them, since no one else had any problems, maybe there's some good news and that people are actually coming around going, no, I kind of see his point.
Right.
Especially football fans, because they're usually a little bit more, I would say, middle of the road to conservative leaning people. Not a lot of far left leaning people kind of get into sports. I'm not saying that is an overall statement. I'm just saying in general. So maybe sports fans.
All right. So you guys got a greater picture with Better Bachelor, and Better Bachelor talking about many things that can cause guys to be on the wanted list. Anytime you speak out, Tommy Sotomayor, Kevin Samuels, Coach Greg Adams, the Angry Man, Minister Jap, and Better Bachelor, you can be on the wanted list. Anything that's masculine can put you on, sadly, the wanted list, guys. So hold tight. I got one more to show you guys. Then we're going to drop the phone lines and we're going to have a conversation. Hold tight. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So shout out to the Beano Nation. Shout out to the Angry Man. And he is more or less parroting. And we men are saying some of the same things. He said, why are people having so much problem with modern relationships? And so this is fair use once again, guys. Shout out to the Angry Man in the Beano Nation. This is fair use. This is fair use, guys. Hold tight. This is fair use. It's for education and also for instruction. This is for education and instruction. Shout out to the Beano Nation. Shout out to the Angry Man. And I'm going to give you guys about a 5-minute clip of this. And then we're going to drop the link and have a short conversation. So hold tight. But you guys are beginning to see what I'm talking about.
It ain't the lack of a fear of God. It ain't education. It ain't knowledge. It ain't money. It ain't none of that shit. None of that. That's the reason why we can't fix it, because we always misdiagnosing it.
Very true.
There ain't none of that. The reason why relationships don't work, the reason why modern relationships don't work. K-Stubb said, is it because some people have no patience in this generation? No. Reason why modern relationships don't work is because for any relationship between a man and a woman to work, a man has to be an achiever. The man has to be a conqueror. The man has to have unrelenting ambition. The man has to strive for success. The man has to accomplish.
And shout out to Elisa Del Rosario for that $10 super sticker. Thank you, dear. She said, it's fun. It's hilarious how we all are queens, but forget queen's first responsibility is to crown, is to the crown. That's worn by kings. Come on, ladies. Well, Alicia, that's too much like common sense. And when women like yourself speak with logic and precision, sadly, Alicia, they will call you a mammy and they will call you a pygmy. But that's the modernized thought, and it's called modernized mania that supersedes logical thinking.
Accomplish things. Now, all of that I just said is not the problem. That's not the problem. That is only a problem when it isn't present. That is only a problem when men don't do that. And trust and believe, women definitely have a problem when men don't do that. But here's where the okie doke comes in, right? Driver's seat said, not true. Achievers and masters of the universe get divorced every day. No shit, nigga. Maybe if you wait until I finish my motherfucking statement. That's the problem too, with you microwave instant gratification generation motherfuckers. Wait till I'm finished with my statement.
As you guys can see, angry man can be very rowdy. He speaks his mind. And I respect the brother. You don't have to agree with the language, but I do respect angry man. He speaks his mind. But you guys are seeing where I'm going at. You guys are beginning to see a causal change. Why are people having so much problem with modern relationships, from Coach Greg Adams to Kevin Samuels to some of the things we talked about? You guys are beginning to see it. Hold tight. And then I got one more clip, guys, and then we can drop the link.
Are you going to finish and are you going to wait until I finish my statement, driver's seat? Everybody in here, driver's seat is the reason we going to pause for a second. I'm not going to say shit else until driver's seat acknowledges that he's going to wait for me to finish my fucking statement.
All right. I love angry man, but I'm going to stop it here because I don't know if they're going to flag me for that. So, but guys, we're going to drop the link in a minute. You guys get it. Angry man speaks his mind. Some don't like what angry man is saying, but the brother's very brilliant. He's very talented. And, you know, of course, he's on his own platform. And so he got a right to say what he wants to say. And I respect the brother. But I want to show you guys something. This is from a couple of days ago. And this is with me and Black Ram. And we're going to talk about this whole, we're going to recap this whole thing with Frank James. And we're going to talk about Frank James. You know, Frank James is the exiled psychos. And you know what? I should have put Black Ram on the wanted list because even though he's very intelligent, some don't like the things that he say. It's many brothers in these spaces that speak their piece. But listen to Black Ram. Good brother. We don't endorse the killing or the exiting of people's lives like Frank James did. But I think Frank James' pathology is a combination, Black Ram, of mental illness, but also it's a combination, Black Ram, of the struggles that he had to deal with in a culture that does not honor and respect men. Imagine if Frank James did have an underlying mental illness, let's say a psychotic illness or a delusional personality disorder of that ilk, but he had women that were very feminine that more or less assuaged him. Do you think Frank James, Black Ram, would have went on that rampage? Because see, what they're trying to do now, Black Ram, they're trying to equivocate you, perhaps me, perhaps the angry man, Kevin Samuels, Tommy Sotomayor, Greg Adams, Bella Bachelor, maybe Mr. Palmer, and a bevy of men with the machinations of Frank James. What's your take on Frank James? And back to my original question, do you think if true femininity was manifest in this world of Frank James would not have been a saboteur of his own ignorance?
Yeah, I'll answer the last question first. Absolutely. It probably would have mitigated and solved some of his anger issues to a degree, because it's nothing like a beautiful feminine voice and a beautiful feminine woman in your life. And I have to just be honest, because this is therapy. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. I'm not saying that it should be this way. Again, brothers, I'm not saying that it should be this way. But oftentimes when we have a woman that we love in our lives, she gives us a reason to live. Again, I'm not saying it should be this way.
Right.
But if you enjoy her, you want to come back home to her. And you don't, of course, don't want to see your life extinguished before it's time. Frank James is a man who is extremely troubled. I watched him years ago. I haven't watched him in many years.
Talk about it, because I never heard of him. Talk about it.
Yeah. I watched him. I used to watch him way back in the day, man. And he was one of those guys who, every now and then he would come to my channel and make a comment. I would go to the channel and make a comment. But I remember him being full of rage. And he would talk about how he was full of rage. And some of the points, of course, that he would make sense. But his anger was always too strong. And I think although you have this indignation, you have to find a way to detach.
And once again, guys, we do not endorse violence of any kind towards men, women, or children. If you need mental help, you need to see a therapist like myself, or you need to get with like-minded men that are working on themselves that have been through some of the same pain that you've been through as well.
Detach yourself from the anger, or else it'll eat you alive. Now, I'm not saying it was just his anger. Obviously, this man has a mental illness. Obviously, something was not right with this man. What I hate about society, man, is that if his color was different, they would call mental illness all day. Or if his gender was different, they'll say mental illness all day. But because he is a black man, he doesn't get that kind of pat on the back, that kind of excusing that they would give everybody else in a society, and actually make the perpetrator of the crime the victim. They don't do that here with this black man. And I'm not saying that he is innocent. All I'm saying is that this man obviously is mentally ill and obviously needed some sort of help that he did not manage to receive. Now, should he be punished for what he did? Was what he did wrong and should be condemned? You're absolutely right. No matter what, I do not condone violence of any type, period.
Right.
And because I critique dating women does not mean I HAT, the rest a woman. Just because I critique you and talk about certain issues has nothing to do with having a great disdain for you. So I think society is always so hungry for blood and so backwards and so crazy that they quickly want to paint with a broad brush and say that everybody who has any sort of disagreement with the government or any sort of disagreement with the way dating and relationships are going are Frank Jamses. And that's
right. That's not true at all. And Black Ram, what it is, man, it's the scapegoating of many men in these spaces. It's the scapegoating when you equivocate, as I said earlier, the Tommy Sotomayor's. Tommy Sotomayor gets a lot of that. Sometimes Tommy can be out there, but if you listen to what Tommy's saying, the logic behind Tommy makes a lot of sense. I might not agree with always the tenor of how he brings things out, but you can't refute his logic. You can't refute Coach Greg Adams' logic. You can't refute Bella Batcher. He's a white gentleman's logic. You can't refute some of the things that the angry man is saying, or Minister Jap, or even what Kevin Samuels is saying. You can't refute some of the logic, but there are these, what I call these psychosense, and also these male bashers and male haters. What they do, they equivocate any form of critique, and they project their anger from their past and say, we're the next one on the FBI watch list. Warning, because Black Ram is going to try to hurt women. And so if Frank James came on your show, they'll say, well, see, Frank James, Black Ram endorses Frank James because Black Ram is spewing HATE. And so what it does, it overgeneralizes, but also it casts aspersions that should not be justified. And because people, Black Ram, are not critical thinkers anymore, they just point their finger and say, see, Black Ram, the kosher clinician, all those men are like that. And I'm going to tell you something, Black Ram, that the struggle that young man went through a couple of months ago when he deleted his 2 baby moms, that's due to frustration. You cannot take men and lock them up in a cage, because I worked in prison. I worked in law enforcement too before I became a therapist. Over time, when you cage a man, when you cage a wild animal, Black Ram, it's going to become crazy. And when you sequester the free thought of men, Black Ram, you're putting them in a predicament that eventually they will become a walking time bomb. Because I said it in the past, that a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is dangerous.
Absolutely.
And so what they don't understand, Black Ram, they are contributing to the pathologies that you're seeing manifest in some of these men. You know, we call them psycho simps. I don't know who came up with that term. I think Sean James came up with that term. Shout out to him. But you're beginning to see a lot of these psycho simps, you know, because they don't have an outlet. 30% of men are not having sex, have not had sex. So what is that doing to that man's internal machination? What is that doing to his hard drive? And see, what they try to do, Black Ram, once again, they try to equivocate all Black men that have any kind of ideologies as being incels. They say, well, you know, he's an incel. And Black men that started the incel movement, it was started by white men, actually a white woman. So Black men that start the incel movement. But what's your take on this new rage that you're beginning to see from these men? Because I don't remember seeing Black men do this kind of stuff in the past.
Yeah, it's like you said, it comes from their frustration, their outrage, and they don't know how to properly channel their anger. And you're supposed to move past the rage into more of a quieter place where you just accept the way things are,
right?
And you become indifferent. See, I have no hatred for anyone at all. Indifference maybe. But you get to a point where you realize it's better to just walk away from a thing. And men who would want to off themselves is because they see no other way, no other outlet. I like to say this: when you make a woman all and you lose her, then that means you lose everything.
Right, you lose everything. Right.
So you don't mind offing yourself, and that's very, very, very tragic because men don't see a way out of the situation. They don't see it as, okay, there's other women, plenty of fish in the sea. They don't see a way out of this. So they internalize these things and they self-destruct. And I'm not at all blaming the victims of these crimes that should be punished, these crimes that are heinous, these crimes that make no sense at all. Because not only are you taking a life, but you just destroyed your own. And there has to be a better way. So again, all of this is just coming full circle. It is the frustration of men, and these men really need serious help. And this is why you're going to always see, Brother Kosher, people attacking you, attacking me, attacking this space, because they don't see how necessary this is. But when you see a Frank James, when you see these other men who are offering themselves and their mother or their children and others, then you see how this space is necessary, because this is our form of therapy.
It is a form of therapy, right? And right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
And this is why I call my sessions therapy sessions. Not that anybody that I know of or myself wants to do any violence or harm. We're against that. We condemn that strongly. But there are issues that are particular to men, and particularly to Black men, that we need to talk about, that we need to hash out, that we need to get some clarity on. And this is why over at my channel, we offer solutions. Like Brother Tim Howard just says, crypto plus passport equals freedom.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Because we're saying that invest your money, obtain enough wealth so that you can live independently, possibly. You know, there's no guarantees in this life, but invest your money, accumulate your wealth, and get out of this country that, and I've simply said it earlier, but this country that HATEs you. The women have made it clear that they don't want you. And this power structure here has made it clear that they don't want you.
Right.
So there has to be a better place. And I understand that this is not a group solution, because most men would rather stay here and argue with the cops and fight with them. A lot of guys will want to stay here and fight with the B-Dub and try to negotiate with her. Although these two entities care nothing about you, but we're still at their table begging them to accept us. I'm saying I'm moving away from a Martin Luther King type of mentality more into a Marcus Garvey mentality, saying let's get away from this.
Right.
As the only solution. Sure, you're going to encounter probably prejudice in other countries, but the last time I heard, I don't see them knocking police officers knocking tourists over the head when you visit Southeast Asia and Latin American countries.
Right.
You know? So go to a group of women who, and again, the solution is only for a few of us. Go to a group of women in places that are more accepting, because we're not accepted wholeheartedly anywhere. But let's go where there are more accepting, like we talked about earlier. There's a matter of degrees.
It's a matter of degrees, right? And also the odds. Shout out to my man Alton Prayer, and that is a deal, right? Alton Prayer said, "Hey, big bro, just a little something for the collection plate. I really admire you two living legends for doing all you're doing to empower men, no doubt.
Right? That's a
And,
deal,
and I
right?
count it the honor and the pleasure, Black Ram, because that is a deal, right?
That's a deal, right?
And
That's a
I'm
deal,
going to
right?
read over in a minute some of the stuff associated with Frank James. But see, I knew back in 2009, Black Ram, that I had a mission to advocate for all men and all boys, white men, black men, all boys and men, because I've always said before, Black Ram, in the past, that a nation of warriors cannot rise higher than the class of nurturers that support the warrior class. You cannot build a warrior class if you're not nurturing that warrior class. You need the masculine to teach it how to be disciplined, but you need the nurturing of a mother to give it hope. And so when you're not nurturing the warrior class, then you have a very broken class. China right now, Black Ram, and I know you talked about it several times on your channel, it's building a platoon, what I call a phalanx of masculinity, where they're not dealing with some of the negative liberal ideologues and thoughts here in the West, but they're taking away a lot of the things that we hold grand and normal. And a lot of the things, Black Ram, that we stood for in the past, we didn't stand for it in the past. And part of that is you're seeing now, Black Ram, with this burgeoning matriarchy where men are not allowed to speak. But let's talk about Frank James. I'm gonna read the story and hold tight. And the story of Frank James. So it says, Black Ram, that on 4/12, 8:30, Frank James fired gunshots inside of an inline subway at injuries to 10 people. Anyone with information should contact him. Hold tight. Hold tight. Let me go back to it.
And shout out to Dr. Thunder. I see Dr. Thunder's in the house. Salute, my brother.
Right. No doubt. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. And this was it. This was the whole Frank James fiasco. He was being linked up with the FBI. The FBI was trying to get him. And I'm going to listen to this little clip real quick. Let me know if you can see it. Hold tight.
Why would you be taking 5 pills to treat ED? Well, currently most online ED services only offer 20 milligram pills. That means you got to take 5 just to stand tall. And that, my friend, is one complicated and expensive erection. Luckily, at RexMD, you can get the same dose.
Hold tight.
A shooting at a Brooklyn subway. We're learning tonight that the alleged gunman reportedly called the cops on himself and told them to come and get him from a McDonald's in Manhattan. Now locked up, there's a sigh of relief in the Big Apple after a nearly 30-hour manhunt. We have new video.
Do you think this was Frank James' catharsis, Black Ram? Do you think him telling the police to come get him was Frank James' catharsis? It was his catharsis, even though what he did was very pernicious. We do not condone violence, but do you think, Black Ram, that this was his catharsis, his emoting, because he never had a chance to emote?
Yeah, I think so. Now, don't get me wrong. He did a lot of emoting on his YouTube channel, but what he talked about really came into fruition. And one of the reasons why I say that I think he was dealing with mental illness, because this was many years ago when I watched his YouTube channel. But when I used to watch him, he would make these rants that really weren't connecting.
Right.
You're a therapist. I think they call going off on a tangent, but
tangential.
Tangential.
Tangential,
In
right.
the clinical sense, right? Which having thoughts that are not connecting, right?
Right, tangential.
I would see certain signs of mental illness in him.
Right.
Of course, I couldn't really call it out, but now that I look back at it and I know a little bit more about mental illness, it was pretty obvious that this man needed help. And the thing about mental illness, sometimes you act out violently and you think in a violent manner, and this is what was happening to him.
Right.
And listen, it's one thing to have anger, and I get that, but it's another thing to act on that anger. That's why a good therapist, a flight of ideas. Absolutely. That's the
flight of ideas, loose associations.
Exactly.
And a lot of time sometimes that can be, be tied to psychotic thought. One of the gentlemen, the white young man that saw him on the bus, said he was talking to himself.
Right.
And so he could have had Black Ram delusional personality disorder, could have been suffering from schizophrenia. He could have been suffering from a bevy, or what we call in the clinical world comorbid issues, because when we look at tangential loose associations, normally that's tied to psychotic behaviors. And that's how we more or less break it down, and also it could be tied to like schizoid or schizoid affective personality disorder. Sometimes it can be tied to for the women, histrionic personality disorder, but normally, like the magical thinking, that's tied to delusional personality disorder, where they think they can create something outside of themselves. That's magical thinking. And I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of these modern women have magical thinking, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's finish listening to this whole thing about Frank James.
Video tonight of Frank James leaving a New York City precinct and being transferred to federal custody. And this just in, he will appear in court for the first time tomorrow. James is accused of shooting 10 people, including 5 students who were heading to school. Luckily, no one was killed. Authorities tonight say there is no indication that James had ties to any terror organizations. And while the motive remains unclear, there is a trail of profanity-laced rants on social media videos that were allegedly posted by James. CBS's Mola Lenghi has.
And as we starting, guys, this is fair use. This is fair use. Let me go ahead and make that disclaimer because, yeah, fair use. This is for educational purposes only. Hold tight. This is fair use. This is for fair use. I do not own the rights to this content. This is fair use as we, Black Ram and I break down this this diatribe with Frank James. But, you know, Black Ram, when you see this man walk out with a smirk on his face, you know, he seems very disoriented, you know, very obese, man. What thoughts were more or less ruminating in your head when you saw him walk out with a smirk on his face?
I think that probably was his psychosis, because of course there's no smirking.
Shout out to my man Devon Morant for that $10 super sticker, and that is a deal, right? Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, Mr. Morant. And in a minute, and Devon Morant said that going to Brazil and Thailand saved me a lot of stress for the future, possibly saved my life. I was supporting the Culture Coalition since day one. I can't thank you enough. I feel more focused than ever. And I really appreciate your donations and your contributions, brother. And I'm extremely happy for you and any man that can find peace outside of this current malaise called America. Okay.
Matter. Also, with Frank James, let's be thankful that, to my knowledge, unless something different happened, that no one was killed or seriously injured. Right? Is that correct?
Yeah, no one was killed. Someone was injured, but no one was killed. Luckily, thank God.
And I don't think anybody was very seriously injured. So thankful for that, because it could have went another way. You know what I mean? And who knows what the fallout would have been if that attack was fatal, costing a number of lives. But Frank James definitely is and has been suffering, and I can only hope that he gets the treatment that he ought to have. And thankfully, he didn't hurt anyone too seriously, because it could have been a lot worse. I'm curious to see how they treat him as far as a trial is concerned. Will they throw the book at him, or will they give him a slap on the wrist like they do, you know, a lot of these cops out here? But of course, we know that he's not going to get that. Michael, even though I think Frank James I think he's about 63, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, about 63, right? About 63. And you know, my heart goes out to, you know, Black Ram. There are some guys in these spaces. Some of them are a little special. Some of some of them are borderline weird. And sometimes these guys, man, take their pathology to extremes. And what they do, they lump all men into this one. Like I said earlier, there's a female content creator that tried to associate Kevin Samuels with Frank James. I'm sure they will probably try to associate you with Frank James if he's been on your platform. You know,
they don't associate me. I'm not that popular, but if I was, believe me, they would.
Right. Well, you know, Mr. Palmer, you know, he got a healthy channel, you know, and there was this magazine called Ellie Magazine, and they were trying to associate him and Dr. Thunder with Ellie Magazine. But, you know, it's always those very, what I call those very neoliberal talking points, progressively liberal talking points, where they always take anything that's traditional or masculine and they blow it out of proportion. You know, we call it thinking errors, or we call it what's called catastrophizing. And they catastrophize Black Ram and more or less and try to equivocate anything that we take, and they take it all out of context and proportion. And they say, well, you know, these men are dangerous too, because, you know, they don't like women. But here's the kicker. You got so many women, some of these women talk about the deletion of Black babies, black boy babies at that. They use all type of disparaging comments towards men and Black men, especially some of these divestors. And nothing to say that channels grow, they won't shut the channels down.
Oh, you froze up, Brother Kosher. Not sure if everybody can see me and hear me still. Number one in the chat, if I can still be heard, I'll continue to show.
I'm back. It must,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it's the area, man. You know, when you live in the RDU, even though I got the fiber optics, man, it'll lag sometime. I don't know if it's a StreamYard issue, but I might have to go to AT&T fiber, get that fiber optics. But yeah, man. So they try to take Black Ram all and any content creators that believe in masculinity and group us all this one, which in essence puts a bullseye on our backs. Yeah. And they said we're part of hate groups. We're gonna talk about the FBI and all that in a minute, but let's finish this video and tell me what you think. Hold tight. Okay.
All the new details tonight, and joins us again from the scene. Good evening, Mullen.
Well, good evening, Nora. This exhaustive manhunt has finally come to an end with James's arrest just a few miles from the Brooklyn subway station here where the shooting happened yesterday morning. And as it turns out, he may have wanted to be arrested, as law enforcement sources tell the Associated Press that he actually called police to come pick him up. 62-year-old Frank James, New York City's most wanted man for the last day and a half, was arrested this afternoon on a street corner in Manhattan's East Village.
We were able to shrink his world quickly. There was nowhere left for him to run.
Zach Dehan said he called police after seeing a man who looked like James.
I was working inside that store, and I was doing security cameras inside, and I see the guy, he walking from the screen. I see him from the cameras. So I thought, oh, this guy, let me call the police. And I call him and we catch him.
James had been wanted since yesterday morning's subway shooting that left more than 20 people injured, including 10 from gunshots. Surveillance video shows the alleged gunman entering a subway station early the morning of the attack, wheeling the same black cart that was later recovered at the scene. Officials say James is the man who donned a gas mask, detonated 2 smoke bombs, and then fired 33 shots into a packed subway car. After the attack, police say James slipped onto another train car, rode one stop, and escaped, sparking a multi-state manhunt. But police did recover some important evidence at the scene, including a 9mm gun, 3 extended magazines, a hatchet.
Black Ram, why are we so reactive? Why are we so reactive, Black Ram, when it more or less relates to masculinity? You've been preaching for years. You're like John the Baptist. You're in the wilderness. You're the clarion caller, and many other men have begun to be clarion callers and blow the shofar about what's going on in the struggles of men. But then we act very surprised when men begin to speak and nothing is done, and then we act out in an aggressive manner because nobody holds Western women accountable. It's not just our women; it's all women. Then we act surprised. Oh, I can't believe it. Just like some of the women say, where all the good men go. Yeah. But why are we so proactive, reactive instead of proactive when it comes down to the issues associated with masculinity, but then act surprised when people act out like this man?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely don't want to be proactive because that means you really want to solve the problem. I realize some people just want to complain and not necessarily bring about solutions. The environment that Frank James had around him, from the things that he's seen in his life, I'm sure had some sort of effect on either his psychosis or even if it, I don't know what his mental state is, but I'm sure his situations in life, early on in life, because there's always signs, right? I'm sure whatever his environment was contributed to where he's at now. He never got the proper attention and the proper help. I'm not saying that's anybody's fault, but that goes to what you were saying about being reactionary, where it should be where men like these are helped, they're instead ridiculed. And I believe his melanated skin has a lot to do with that.
No, I totally agree. Shout out to the Black Seattle veteran. He said, as always, a great show. Thank you, brother. All right, guys. You guys can see that full show. Guys can see that full show on my YouTube channel with Black Ram. And once again, guys, this was just a culmination of something called wanted. You men have been wanted, and many men that speak out against injustice are wanted. So I'm going to drop the link for about 5 to 10 minutes. And we're going to talk about solutions as it relates to men being wanted. Because, when men are not allowed to speak out, when men are cast tight, when men are scapegoated, when men are catastrophized for anything pertaining to masculinity, it causes a lot of disdain and distress on the psyche of a man. So I'm going to drop the link, guys, but this is the part of the show where we find. This is the part of the show where we find solutions. All right. So this is the part of the show, guys, where we find solutions. And I'm going to drop the link for about 5 to 10 minutes, guys. We will not be long. You guys can call in. I'm not going to show everybody. I showed the majority. I didn't show Minister Jap. Minister Jap be speaking at hot lava fire sometime. And, I don't know if they're going to shut me down with sometimes the language. So some of the guys are more kosher with their language. But the link has been dropped. Guys, if you want to call in and talk, men or women, for the next 5 to 10 minutes, let me know. If not, we're going to end the link. This has been another great stream that's talking about wanted. And also, guys, it's talking about how logic many times is minimized for modernized mania. So the link has been dropped, guys. If you want to come in and talk and chat, feel free to do so. If not, I'm going to end the stream in a few minutes. Man or woman, if you want to come up and share your concerns or more or less talk about the struggles that we're having as it relates to forming a more perfect union, as it relates to men and male-related issues, then feel free to click on the link, join the conversation, and we can talk about solutions. So in the meantime, thank you everyone that's been sharing the content. If you have not shared the content, I need at least 5 to 10 people to share it. Thank you for everyone that has donated on tonight. And thank you for everyone that support the Kosher Clinician. I know some of you guys got to get ready for work in the morning. And so I'm going to end the stream in a minute. But if there anyone that want to come on and chat for a few minutes, the link has been dropped here. There's the StreamYard link, guys. Feel free to pop in and share your concerns or share this conversation if you have any questions related to the show. So do you guys feel like that you're Frank James? Do you feel like that you have been accosted like Frank James? Do you feel like you've been minimized, that anything pertaining to masculinity is minimized anytime men begin to speak up? If that is the case, then what have you done about it? What are you doing about it? Are these conversations needed? Are these conversations pertinent? And or are these conversations necessary? Because I'm a firm believer that when men get their needs met, when men are heard, a lot of the issues that we're struggling with will be greatly reduced. So the link is dropped. You guys see the FBI most wanted: Thomas Sotomayor, Kevin Samuels, Coach Greg Adams, the Angry Man, Minister Jap, and Bella Batcher. And those are my top 6 brothers I listen to off and on. But joining me is Westside Kulik. How you doing, sir?
How you doing there? Great show, by the way. Great show on analysis of masculinity. Is it wanted? And it's a great show.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So what do you gather from this conversation, man? And what are the solutions moving forward as we seek to bring clarity in these very turbulent times?
Solution for me is I have to look at my own life and what I'm doing, what I've been doing as a child since middle school. You always have to speak truth to power, even when it's not popular. So when I was in middle school around, I think with 8th grade, 1998, there was a lot of girls that were on this type of, trip about, the sexuality thing and this, that, and the third. And I was very opinionated back then, like I am now. But I look at my opinions now in comparison to what's going on. I was correct. So I was in the fire, talking the talk and walking the walk. I was messing around with some of these girls. At the same time, I wasn't promoting toxic female behavior and taking advantage over. So I think a lot of us need to, in the times where we ain't got no money, or if we're rich or poor, we always need to speak the truth about our malehood, about femininity, what it should be, and don't be worried about the backlash. Whether you lose your job, you lose money, you lose friends, a man is always going to build his house under any type of circumstance. So that's one of the solutions I believe in.
What about the conversation still out, man, as you begin to see what I call the pathologies that are associated with so many modernized women, but also how you have men that are so modernized that they can't see the error of their way, because there are a lot of modernized men and a lot of modernized hyena simps that are assuaging the pathologies that you see currently existing now. But Well, what did you think about the causal chain? You know, you saw A went to B, B went to C, C went to D. What did you think about that? Did you see how everything was actually panoramic, but also correlated?
I did, and it's just amazing how, and I hope I'm asking your question right, so, but it's just amazing how when men figure out certain things, they want to put it under these labels as a, you know, an extremist group or something that is aggressive, where it wants to attack this and destroy this and break this down, or all of a sudden we all hate women and all this kind of stuff. So they try to put us under these type of umbrellas that don't follow suit. Now, like you said before on a different show, you did talk about there's some people in this community that are, you know, off base and need some help. But if malehood doesn't correct itself and look at itself in this mirror, and also look at you know, the overall circle and how women are treating themselves and how women are treating men, a lot of us are not going to be able to be around each other. We're not going to be able to be married, procreate. So this manosphere or human sphere, or whatever you want to call it nowadays, is good because we're finally putting women under the microscope and understanding their psychology. We've always been looked at as men. You know, what are men doing? Why are they so angry? Boys will be boys. You know, toxic masculinity. You know, the Me Too. You know, all these kind of things like that. So we're finally looking at women and what they've been doing and how they've been sneaking around, taking advantage of their toxic femininity.
What's some of the backlash you've gotten from your family, man, and also people when you begin to speak out?
Family, not so much. Family, not so much. But my peer groups or people I've gone to school with, or people my age, I've been told I'm angry. I've been told I'm never gonna find a wife. I've been told I'm gonna be alone. I've been told I hate my mama. I've been told I'm. What else do they say? They say you are.
Are you there? You there, West Side?
You know what I mean? Like it's like I just always been me. You know, like I said, under the fire, I've always been me. I'm not worried about what these dudes are saying, what these girls are saying. If I feel as though it's right, and I feel as though it's good for humanity, and it needs to be said, I'm gonna say it.
Do you see an evolution? Are you beginning to see an awakening among men, or do you feel like there's still too many sleeping giants?
I think there's still sleeping giants. There's an awakening, but I feel as though people are still under some type of psychosis of we still have to tiptoe, we still have to please women. And as humans, we got to please ourselves. Just like back in the day in middle school when I was saying certain things and seeing certain things, you know, things I've learned from my father and uncles. You know, I used to read these books of Iceberg Slims and, you know, Bishop Don Juan. You know, I used to read this stuff. So I was at an early age, I was understanding female behavior. So when this manosphere came around, I said, this is good, this is cool, but it feels like it's some type of, I don't want to say government manipulated type of movement, but I look at certain things and I go, this is not so organic. You know, what's organic is when I look at somebody like you, sir, and other people that I've been raised under, teachers, I've you know, many lectures I've been to by teachers, and I can name a million names. These people were organic. They know what they're talking about. They had the foot to the ground, the boots to the ground. But I feel as though this is like a popular thing now, because if it wasn't, especially when the pandemic hit, if certain things weren't so out there, and people, you know, didn't get to go outside, like none of this stuff really will be talked about. But it's so popular now, and that's why these media outlets, you know, hence YouTube and CNN are talking about this now, because it makes money and it causes a distraction.
Right.
But I feel as though still men are asleep, because I'm you know, at my job, at these gyms, everyday life, I see how these dudes move, and I'm like, they still are blind.
I agree. I agree. And I got a show coming up where another brother was blind, and sadly, many times Westside Coolidge, some of the men tend to castigate or more or less accuse the men that are trying to more or less talk a message or bring a message of a more perfect union. And it's unfortunate because, you know, men got to band together because there's a crisis. But some don't want to see and many don't choose to see. And, sadly, a lot of it is how they were raised, and it precludes them from seeing what they need to see as it relates to women in relationships. If you don't have anything else to share, young man, I really appreciate you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your insight. I appreciate your savvy. And once again, this has been another good stream. Anything else you want to add, Westside, before we sign off?
Just one more thing. I got one more talking point. This happened last week. I was talking to one of my, because I go to the gym. That's one of my outlets. And I was talking to one of my friends about these girls who go to the gym, and it's relevant and it's everywhere in this country now. A lot of these girls come to the gym with nothing on. I'm talking about nothing. And I told him, like, it's cool looking at this stuff. You know what I mean? With these girls out here doing these exercises, and when they're on doing their squats and they're doing the abductor, I mean, they're doing some very sexually provocative things. And if you even say that, well, they'll say, well, it's your fault you're looking, or, you're a pervert, or, whatever they say, these shaming tactics or whatever. But I'm like, I said this to my friend. I'm like, at this point in time, we got all our testosterone going, hormones are going. These women are basically just out here just teasing you, if you will. At this point, I'm like, these girls need to be in separate quarters, because some gyms, they have where women have their own weightlifting room, but they don't have an only man room or whatever like that. And I'm like, that's crazy. That don't make no sense. But I told my friend this. He's like, well, that don't make no sense. I'm like, yeah, it does, because if you think about it, if dudes were walking around here with all this stuff hanging out, it would be an issue. So I'm like, there's the imbalance right there. Men can't even take their shirt off at some of these gyms, but these girls can be out here with nothing on. I'm like, y'all don't see nothing wrong with this. So this is what I mean about men of the day. They're still asleep. They don't get it.
Yeah, many don't get it, sadly, and Westside, many don't want to get it, and it causes, like I said, more distress in the union of masculinity that we're trying to form, and it's unfortunate, but men got to pursue on, men got to push on. And at the end of the day, man, it is what it is, man. But I'm forever thankful, brother, for you coming on, man. Thank you, Westside. I'm going to sign off. It's about 56 minutes, about 27 minutes after the hour, 11 o'clock. I'm going to sign off in a minute. Thank you for everyone that planned to share. Shout out to Philip Wims. I appreciate you sharing on Facebook and Instagram. And I appreciate it, guys. I know you guys got to get some rest. And Westside, thank you again, brother. But I want to ask you this one question before we sign off. Let's say if you are angry, I'm not saying you are, what's made you angry, and are you really angry? And if you are angry, so what?
I'm more so disappointed, and I care. If I didn't care, I would just, get with a chick that's not of my lineage. You know what I'm saying? I'll keep it at that. And then don't even talk about this. Because when I look at my own women in this community, they need some help. And if I didn't care, I wouldn't be out here, talking about it. So I'm not angry. I'm just more so disappointed in these women, how they conducted themselves. Because if it wasn't for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and these other women that have broken down certain things about how to be a woman, and the old school grandmamas and mamas back in the day, they had to go through all this stuff. And then you look at what these women are doing nowadays, how they're disrespecting them. It's just it's worse than a spit in the face. So it's more so I'm disappointed in these people, sir.
Yeah, and I think Westside, you're not the only one. Many are disappointed, and it's causing a lot of distress and consternation with many. But anyway, such is life. These conversations are necessary. Young men are getting the message, man, and I'm proud of you and every other young man that are listening as you guys are trying to change in these present times. So I'm about to sign off, man. I'm going to run this commercial, man, or two. And thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for everyone that's been watching. And, guys, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Please share the content, guys, and help the channel grow. And, guys, continue to stay positive, stay focused, and continue to love yourselves as we seek to form a more perfect union with heteronormative masculine. So once again, guys, thank you. Thank you, Westside, for listening. And we're going to sign off. Thank you.
Much
respect. Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.
Tell them run it off. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell them run it off. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it off. I wake up, flex, thumb down now. Check, no drip this. Wet. Tell them run it off. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell them run it off. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. 4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say